Yes, this time it works. This is live. Moto Unfiltered podcast, Mondays at somewhere between the hours of 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time and 10:30 Eastern Time, because it's just kind of goes off. The gate will drop at some point. The 30-second board is more of like a 35-minute board. So I've got Coach with me.
Good morning, brother.
What's up, Coach? So I was actually going to have the Moto Housewives on here because again, I think it's all about giving back, and if I can help content creators, then yeah, I will totally do whatever I can to help, and especially the female community, because that's something we don't have enough. And unfortunately, you know how like my little boy had RSV a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now I guess her kids have it. So yeah. Anyway, and then I sent you the link like really late. So
no worries, man. I'm surprised you're even able to stand up. I can't imagine you're running on what, 6 hours over 2 days, maybe?
More. If I look at my Garmin data, like Friday, I got 3 hours of sleep. You know, I woke up at 2 a.m. and then did press day. And then Saturday, I got pretty good sleep. I went to bed at like midnight, and because you know, I'm my own boss, I didn't have to be there at 7 a.m. So I was like, I'm going to wake up when I want to wake up, and then I'm going to go run. I was planning on doing 10 miles, but I don't know, that Glendale heat kind of got to me. And I started running about 9:30 in the morning, and come about 10-ish, it started getting pretty hot. And I'm like, oh, holy shit, I don't have any carbs on me. And because, you know, I haven't eaten anything at that point. So then Coach, I tried going by a Starbucks, and no shit, like every 2 miles on my run, there was a Starbucks. But the Starbucks I picked at like 6.5 miles was just a drive-through. And so I couldn't even get some of the carbs that I wanted, or a little bit of caffeine. So I just flogged it home. And it was funny. I saw AP because he was staying in the same hotel. And I was like, shouldn't you be at the track? And he's like, yeah, I'm on my way. And gave me all the big fist bumps. And I'm like, why are you way out here? Because I like to stay, I'm cheap and bougie. So I like to stay anywhere around Glendale was like stupid expensive, because I'm not going to stay at a number hotel. I'm going to stay at like a Marriott or some sort of Hilton deal, because I don't know, I like it to be
feel comfortable there.
Feel comfortable. So I was in like another town that was 15-20 minutes away, and I was surprised that the entire KTM crew was there too. They were probably thinking cheap and bougie too.
They're thinking we just want to come to the hotel, get a bite to eat, go to sleep, get up, go back to the track. And then when the race is over, they have to go back to the hotel, try to get 3 hours of sleep, catch their airplane, get back home. It's the grind is real. So
well then on Saturday, I got kicked out of the press box because I don't know, the security at Glendale is more than usual, which is crazy because all those stadiums are usually have quite a bit of security, where somebody will be like, you're not supposed to be here. And so I'm like, oh, sorry. And then I walk the other direction and kind of wait for them to see if they're following me and kind of continue on. But anyway, I got kicked out of the press box about 10 p.m. And then I got back to my hotel like 10:30. And then I had to upload a couple stuff till like 11:30. And then I had to wake up at 2 to get my flight back home. And then, of course, once I get to the airport, the flight's delayed, and it's like, oh, this is awesome. But yeah, not something that I typically would like to do every weekend, but it is cool to do. And hey, I've got some custom content for the members only. If you guys want some of my POV unfiltered raw footage, it's all on the members page. I'm starting that because I'm trying to get into MotoGP. Trying to get, I think I'm already in Moto America. I want to do some maybe downhill rampage stuff. I got big plans that just isn't Moto specific, but anyway, that's there. So how are your ribs, Coach?
Oh, they're good. You know, a week later, I ran 2 hours on the treadmill yet. Well, that's a lie. I did 30 minutes on the spinner. I have my Cannondale up on I'm old school. I got it set up on a CompuTrainer, and then Michaela has a fancy Wahoo kicker in the Zwift. So we did 30 minutes of bike, 30 minutes of run, walk on the treadmill, just trying to get it back. It's funny, you can feel it. It's very localized, but did 30 on the bike, 30 on the treadmill, 30 on the bike, 30 on the treadmill. So we're back. So not at 100%, of course, but it's crazy how fast the body heals. And tie those two conversations together. Think about those guys, and Johnny, yourself being an athlete, running on fumes, still trying to get a run in, still try to go back to the track, be there from 11 in the morning until 11 o'clock at night. Just think about having to load back up, try to race at the highest level weekend after weekend after weekend
Yeah,
after
no, those
weekend.
guys are for sure. Cause like it's hard to find, like whenever I go there, I did my long run just for me, just to like I wanted to do something for me where I wasn't working, where it was like, this is relaxed time, this is like meditation time, and just be outside. And if God, if I could run barefoot, I would love to run barefoot, but I'm going to break my toes because of my drop foot. But it's just nice to be grounded, I guess, as opposed to just always constantly working. 'Cause I see the other media guys and things going on. It's so, I guess, busy and just grinding. And so I guess that'll jump into some of the unfiltered thoughts that I had, Coach, from this weekend, because I got kicked out of the Kawasaki rig. As of right now, I'm not really trying to get back into Star because
Why are you
those
getting kicked
guys.
out? I still don't understand why you're getting kicked out.
I don't know. So
Like, do they literally say, Johnny, leave our pit?
more or less,
Okay.
like the Star guys have told me that they've had a meeting that like not to let me in. And at the last race I was at last weekend, I was unzipping the Star Yamaha tent because truthfully, like with my credentials, I don't need permission, right? But I want to have permission because I think that's
Certainly.
respectful. And all the mechanics, they were trying to like zip their tent back. They're like, "Go away, Johnny, go away."
But
And
you've
it's
always
just
been
'cause I
so
guess
good. If they,
I'm giving away secrets, right? Hey, your axles are all the way back, like just dumb shit, right? But
yeah,
there was
but like
some.
you said, when they get in the starting gate, anybody can get that same if they know what they're looking for.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. There's some like interesting hazing because I talked to Mitch, and Mitch is like, "Oh, hey, you're the sprocket guy," and I'm like, "Okay, I guess I will take the honors of saying I'm the sprocket guy." And the funny thing is like what they don't understand is like I get on average between 12 to 17 million views every time I go to a race. That
Mhm.
is money, right?
Mhm.
And so, like I talked to Martin Davalos and Mike at Club MX, these guys, I'm like, and Ian Harrison at KTM, and these guys, I'm like, hey, use me
Mhm.
as a resource.
Yeah.
If you have a new cool sponsor and you have like reputable data behind how this is a performance enhancing deal, let
Mhm.
me know. We can work together and I can help. Right. And when I went to Kawasaki, you know, I asked Brock Tickle if he would go get the team manager, Dan. And so Dan comes out and he's kind of this intimidating guy. He's like real. I wonder how he gets along with Sexton because he's very business savvy and just tall, like 6'4", slender guy. And he was like, Johnny, I don't necessarily think I want you taking photos of the motorcycles, but come back tomorrow and maybe I'll change my mind. I'm like, totally respect that. And he told me, he's like, hey, I appreciate you asking if you can take photos because
Mhm.
easily just come in there and take photos. But
Yeah.
that's not the rapport I am. Like I am
Mhm.
there to teach the fans and the fans want to emulate the riders. So of course, like even me, I would love to see what they're running and try to emulate it to get faster kind of a thing. Like that's all I do as far as the body positioning and stuff. Like I've learned how to be a better rider by doing it. But anyway, fast forward, I come back till the next day, and I ask Dan and I'm sitting there and it's like 5 minutes go by, 10 minutes go by, 15 minutes go by. Like, okay, this is kind of awkward, like just sitting here chilling, hi Sexton,
Yeah.
boots look clean, just dun dun dun. Finally comes out and he's like, Johnny, come on, let's let's talk behind the semi. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting reprimanded here. Like, what did I do? What did I do? And because the mechanics are like, don't talk to Hopper, don't talk to Hopper. So anyway, I have a conversation and Dan's like, Johnny, I don't know if I want to try to help you at all. I'm like, okay, I understand, but can you give me a reason? And he's like, well, I asked some people and they say that all you do is talk shit. I'm like, huh, okay. Can you tell me who it is? And he's like, oh, just, reputable people. And so names are popping into my head that I probably don't have to say. And I'm like, well,
Mm-hmm.
Dan, I haven't met you before. You haven't met me. Okay. You've got a bad inclination on first impression. It's my job to try to change it. So what do you say? We don't do anything today. I bug you next time I'm here, but can I tell you what I do? And so I told them the viewerships I get pretty much better than all the other guys that are doing stuff, and that's not to toot my own horn. I really think all the other guys do a good job. Rising tide lifts all boats. They help me get better and vice versa. But anyway, he's starting to sit there and he's like, dude, I don't, people are telling me this guy talks shit, but then he's just talking about like trying to build the sport and and teach people, and that doesn't sound like somebody's talking shit. And I said, well, I will be critical. I have been critical of your rider. I think Sexton is the fastest guy here, but I think there's a mental block that happens more often than not. And if he could get over that, you guys would be the points leader and would be the rider to beat. And he was like, Johnny, I don't disagree with you. Okay. Because that is something that we are working on. I'm like, well, cool. I'm glad you guys are actively working on it. But nothing that I say comes out of like just being a dick. Right.
Exactly.
My job is to have an opinion. And that's what makes me different is I have an opinion, and I know when I was at Coach, you wouldn't believe how many people came up to me and like were like, I love your questions. And it's like that's my least favorite. Okay, so
I'm not
somebody's saying
surprised.
Johnny's a paid shill now. For one, nobody is paying me. I'm paying myself. I have zero inside moto sponsors to keep me unbiased from everything. I'm telling you right now that I'm putting myself in interesting situations, to try to give the fans better content and ask questions that people would normally not ask questions to. And there's a fine line between just being a dick and being respectful, but still debatable, right? And that's what I try to do. So I don't particularly like going to the scrubs because that's not my forte, but I feel a responsibility to the series and I guess some sort of I don't know, just that a responsibility that, hey, I'm leading the social media crowd there. I need to have a presence
Mm-hmm.
to be there. And like my question to Mitch, as far as like, hey, have you told your riders to pony up and start fighting back? I got some kickback from some people about asking Mitch that and, why I didn't follow up with him with his answer. For one, I didn't follow up with Mitch because I respect him. And two, he's the team manager. He's the boss. So really, if I argue with him on at the press conference, makes me look small, and it completely ostracizes my whole thing of trying to build a rapport of a unbiased party, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like not have to be friends, but that sort of thing. So anyway, that is
All right.
working.
I'm gonna grab your e-brake for a moment.
Okay.
You got a lot to unpack right there. First, let's just start with the last comment you just made. Your question asking Mitch about the Star Yamaha guys riding aggressive. Now Mitch's quote about I think people should ride aggressive is now the quote that's going across almost every platform that I've seen since that interview.
Yeah, it's
So
got like a couple million views and stuff.
exactly. And so like, because you, again, I'm going to bounce around here because you had a lot to unpack there. Give me 2 minutes. The fact that you said you're surprised so many fans stopped and asked you, no, disagree. What was the exact comment you just articulated? Hey, Johnny, love your questions. Perfect. Hit the brakes. The question that you asked Mitch, which was a tad bit ballsy, calling out Star, being aggressive, and then giving Mitch the opportunity to say, hey, dude, we're in an aggressive sport. I like the aggressiveness. I really love the fact that he said, yeah, they scrubbed us out, but I didn't go complain about it. Right. There was so much meat on what Mitch said there. And he's like an airplane. He just landed it like no big deal. The other thing that I think is very interesting is sponsors spend money to get all advertising, right? If somebody pays to be an advertiser pays to be a sponsor on the team, and Mitch is doing gear, and then Mitch is selling merchandise in his catalog and online, and then Mitch has that sponsor, let's take Specialized Bikes. Specialized Bikes gives them X amount of money. They get 20x the amount of money in regards to advertising, right? So if I put $100,000 into Mitch Payton's team and I get $1 million worth of advertising, great. That was a good ROI. So what you just said, you're going in there, and I'll take all the teams off the catbird seat, and I'll talk about Derek Harris with HB Development. He does a tremendous amount of programming with those GET units, right? So he's out there on his own, flying out, helping teams do stuff on his dime because he loves to try to help. But now all of a sudden he's talking about, hey, this is like you were talking about, Johnny, showing the dyno reports and stuff. So now you've got Derek Harris who's showing what that GET unit can do, and nobody's paying for that. Now I'm going to come back from Derek and come back to yourself. If you're talking about the fact that there's some very finite, cool little add-on to the bike, Kawasaki gets all that exposure. Monster gets all that exposure. When you're talking about the tires, Dunlop's getting all that exposure. When you're showing the sprockets up close, Renthal's getting all the exposure. You're showing cool configurations of the lever, what the angles are. Now you've got, ODI grips.
It's just like old school ways. Like when I go to the team managers and tell them, like, guys, what I'm doing is going to help you sell shit. Okay.
Exactly. And they're not paying you for it. They're not paying you for it. And when you get 5 to 10 million views, and by the way, I'm going to kind of stroke your ego a little bit. You're a one-man show. No, please go with me. You're a one-man show getting 20 million views. There's other entities out there that have 2, 3, 4 pit reporters. They've got editors. They've got a website manager, and you're killing their numbers. Now, again, you're not walking around tooting your own horn. You're just saying, hey, you're saying I'm talking shit. Look at my content. I don't talk shit. Hey, you're saying you don't want to let me in, but look at my numbers compared to who you do let in. And I think, and again, Johnny, you're very good on staying consistent. Eventually the narrative will change. Hey, wait, Hopper doesn't talk shit on us.
The narrative is kind of changing, because there's so
but
many.
You're creating that change because you don't say this is a double negative that equals a positive. You're not saying I don't talk shit. You're simply showing that you don't talk shit, right? All you got to do is go back from January of this year since the races began and look at anything that Hopper's put out. Constructive criticism, that's one thing, but not talking shit. And then when you look at your numbers and you look at the exposure I'm still going to go back to what I said last week over and over again. When you freaking showed the X in the knobby, I had to watch that video like 5 times. I'm like, what the hell is Johnny talking about? You're talking about cutting the knobbies. Like I said last week, I thought you were talking in between the knobbies. I didn't even look at the freaking knobby. I'm like, Johnny Hopper, do you have like microscopic glasses or something on? Because I'm like, how the freak did you even notice that? That was so badass.
Yeah. So,
I got to give you credit where credit's due.
Because
no,
there is like, if I'm being honest,
don't look at the chat. You just keep talking to me. You're getting distracted.
the chat got me like, hold on, what's going on here? Okay. So going back, it's funny, some of the hazing, because I was in the pro circuit, guys, and things were moving. It's like, okay, Mitch says that I can do stuff. I'm like, sweet, I'm getting some positive rapport here. And I start talking to some of the mechanics in there and some of them, and they're like, hey, we've got this special new memory foam for Levi Kitchen seat. And I'm like,
Mm.
oh, dude, that's sweet. Like, I'm thinking in my head, why wouldn't a factory team might be able to make a specific special foam
Mhm.
for a rider? Because over in the Husky tent with Nathan Ramsey and the mechanics over there, Malcolm Stewart's got the custom built seat cover and everything for a seat bump. So I'm over there
Yeah.
and I'm all pressing on the seat and I'm like, and then I kind of turn back and I'm seeing the mechanics and they're all like smiling. And I'm going, these motherfuckers, they're trying to get me to post something that is entirely inaccurate. So I go over to them and I shake their hand. I'm like, well played, guys. Well played. That's a standard fucking seat. God damn it. Okay.
That's awesome.
You know,
That's
and
awesome.
so there is some of that going on. And so it's interesting, because
So let's run with this for just a moment if you're okay with it. I hate open-ended questions, so I'll just answer my question and then I'll get your feedback. What is going on with the Pro Circuit bikes and their whole shot devices not letting go? And then same thing with Deegan, and then same thing with was it Moseman? It was one no, it was I think it was Anstey. That's two different bikes that they're coming in the first turn and they're slamming their front wheel down. We know that that's what took out Kitchen in round 1.
yeah, I know. I think some of my videos in analytics
Mhm.
have saved that. Like, this was the first weekend I saw guys with no start blocks,
Mhm.
and honestly, I want to look to see Tomac to see if he had like a lowering kit on the shock or something, because he was almost flat footed. And I know Tomac is about as tall as I am, and there's no way that I'm flat footed on a 450
Right.
sitting there, so that's the next thing I kind of want to look at is like, what the hell's going on there? Because Kenny also didn't have blocks.
Mhm.
And talking with Mitch, they have lowered their hole shot button by like 2.5 inches compared to
Yeah.
where they've usually had it. Like, if you go buy a hole shot button, they've got a hey, this is where we think you should put it. And these guys
Mhm.
move it in quite a bit lower. And I've asked some of the mechanics, I'm like, is this a special plastic? I know this sounds ridiculous, but is it
Yeah.
a special plastic? Because like, I've had
Tear it.
issues when I was racing that it
Yep.
would rip it out. It would literally
Absolutely.
rip it out of the fork guard.
Yeah.
And they tell me, no, it's all stock and whatnot. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is an Acerbi sponsorship. So I will believe you, but also at the same time, I will question what you're telling me, because the amount of tension that is on those fork guards should
Mhm.
rip it completely out. And
Well,
with
it's like
how
that
stiff
one
that suspension is, it's a hardtail at that point. That's why
well,
Levi has
it's
fucked
that
himself over a couple
that that
times.
that one video where you showed, I think it was KTM, wasn't it? That they actually had a device to pull it down. It was so much load on that front end, like
Yeah,
the
yeah, and
you couldn't
Cowie's
even
got it and
pump it
everything.
down.
And the chat, Cole is saying rear hole shot. Yeah, I think some of the teams might be testing that, because how low the bikes are sitting, it if it makes sense, you wouldn't need starting blocks. Like, because originally, let's say this, I remember having starting blocks. They're not new. I remember having starting blocks on my 85, my KX
Mhm.
85, but that's because I was 11 years old and I really felt I fit a 65. I didn't fit
Mhm.
an 85. I literally couldn't stand without starting blocks. So that was
Yeah.
like the whole reason behind starting blocks. Um, so
Which I always thought was funny that dads would do that, because then you go down on the track and you can't get on the bike and start the damn thing because you have to lean it against a tree. I always thought
yeah,
that
but
was
the
funny.
point is like, you're not prepared for a mistake to happen. You're prepared
Right.
to win the race and then have to just come off the finish line and like coast into dad so that he can catch you
Exactly.
so you
Yeah.
can get off the bike. But
Well, when you look at all the analytics that you're bringing in, and we can't argue with the fact, right? We're how many rounds in? 5 rounds in?
yeah. So answering this, coach,
Yeah.
007 says, cool name, by the way. He says, are the whole shot devices failing, or are they testing the limits going too low? They're not. It's a little bit of both. The Supercross suspension on those bikes are so stiff, you can barely push it down. So that's the limiting factor number one, that's having them like not unclick. Number two, they are going too low. So you put those two things together and you need a tremendous amount of inertia and force to unlock them to where
All right,
it's just
Johnny, I need your professional opinion because I've never raced pro like you have. Where in the straightaway from the gate dropping, getting to the first turn, are they expecting there to be enough compression to even get that to release? Like you said, if they're
slam.
going another,
It should naturally slamming on the front brake going into the first turn.
but not if you're pulling it down an additional 2 inches to where there's so much
That's the
tension on
problem.
it. There's nothing that's enough to get that to release. Now, again, I'm not a factory mechanic. I'm not doubting anybody that's out there that is. I just don't understand it. It put Levi Kitchen on the ground and out of the first round because it didn't release. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of stuff that I think that you're always good at bringing out. Now, if somebody sees that, go ahead
Well,
and
and
finish your
possibly
thought.
these guys are really good, like to me, if I'm being analytical and I'm telling my rider, I'm like, hey, we have your whole shot button an inch lower than what it should be. So
Mhm.
therefore, don't even fucking try to start on the outside. Because if you
Right.
start on the outside, you can get away with a little bit of brake, then a whole lot of coast to come around because you're going to come in
Mhm.
real fast at a diagonal area. You don't need a you don't need to be slamming on the brakes in a straight line. So I'd
Yeah.
be telling my rider like, "Hey, we're fucked if you have to start on the outside. You have to start
Mhm.
essentially straight to the 180. So you have to
I
be
can't
way on the
imagine.
inside and that's why
Think
I don't
about
like having the whole shot devices and I got a lot of information that I haven't released yet about some of the start maps and things of that nature because traction control is illegal, but then everyone is hiding their start maps. Like what I've noticed is if you look at like typically on a handlebar, we go by motorcycles, right? And you've got like usually two maps, aggressive map, non-aggressive map, and then like a start map, right? And then on some bikes you have like a traction control that kind of limits the aggressive and retards the lower whatever. So I'm digressing. But anyway, you have a start map and usually that start map will start blinking so that you know you're on that map. But if you notice about the Kawasaki guys, they look like they are grabbing like a petcock. And Jason Lawrence actually told me like, "Hey Johnny, you need to look at this." He randomly texted me. He's like, "Hey, you need to look at this." And so I was like, okay, I need to start looking a little bit more in depth in that. And so on the Kawasaki's, their button is underneath the shroud to
mm,
turn on the start map. So there won't be anything showing. And then on the Huskies, theirs is right above like the radiator cap. So it is not on the handlebar. It is on here. So the rider can look down and can see that they've got the start map on, but nobody else can, which is interesting why they're trying to hide it.
mhm. Well, and let's take this a step further. We've had, Max Volan failed a sound test, and we talked about it last week or 2 weeks ago.
I
Like, I don't
talked
even
to him
underst
and I got his answer, coach.
Yeah, no, I liked what
And
he said. I worked so hard, and then they took the points right away. No, I've watched most of your videos that were
mm,
out there, but it goes back to what you said. If traction control is illegal and they're inspecting these bikes, it's not like you can't see these in plain daylight, and yet they don't seem to get caught. But yet we have inspections before, during, and after the race, and we get popped for sound, but we don't get popped for traction control. How does that work?
well, I talked to a couple privateers. I talked to the next level guys, and because they were getting popped for sound too,
Mhm.
and um, they're like, "Dude, it's coming from my airbox. Like all the
Mhm.
sound is coming from my airbox." And so the interesting thing with sound is like, how do you be strict, but also semi lenient because conditions aren't always the same. You're outside, sound bounces off the walls if you're not testing in the same area, which they are, but
Yeah.
how do you make sure that like the pipe isn't just a half an inch tilted one way so sound is going here? Is there anything behind it that it's bouncing off of? And like for these guys at next level, they would pass sound if they covered up the airbox, if they
Yeah, I was
taped
gonna
over
say
the airbox.
that's the old adage, right? Stuff the mechanics rag in there. Plus, you have humidity differences at night
Mhm.
compared to the morning.
But
There's
what
a lot of
Voland was telling me was the muffler packing is because from the start of the day, they had a full muffler packing. And like,
Mhm.
truthfully, I only changed my muffler packing like 6 months, if unless I just bought a new pipe or something.
Yeah.
But that wasn't one of the things that it was like, oh, just after an hour of riding, I need to change the muffler packing. But anyway, they were saying that the muffler was burning the packaging between race 1 to race 3, and that's why they failed sound. And it's like, okay, I believe it, but then also, damn, you're talking about like splitting hairs by
Mhm.
the amount of muffler packing that gets burnt. And then talking with some other factory teams, they kind of were calling it BS, right?
Mhm.
Because they were like, our bikes have had the same pipes for the last 6 months, and we're not failing sound. So it was
Who
interesting where it's
who was
like,
saying that? Who
some of
was
the
saying that?
Honda guys were saying it.
So here's what I don't understand. If you're looking at you have a sound test in the morning, correct? Again, I don't know the process. I haven't been there.
Correct. And then they'll randomly sometimes pick guys after qualifying, and
Okay.
then they
And then
always pick the
after
guys, the 3 bikes that win or on the podium, they immediately have to go to sound right after the race. But qualifying, they'll randomly pick, and then at the morning, they have to get a sticker and something written on the pipe saying that they passed in the morning.
see, because this is where I go back to what real JD said. We still haven't gotten an explanation as to why they even test for sound. Now, if we get an engineer on here that says, hey, look, if I decrease that packing by 0.2%, I'm going to gain 3 horsepower. I'm totally random numbers here. I can understand that, but that's like I said to you a couple of weeks ago. We put this where we race these motorcycles. We have monster trucks running straight headers. It can't be a sound worried about the environmental type crap, is it? I mean, I don't I don't understand the purpose of sound checks at a supercross race. We're not in the local state park that we need to have, spark arresters and certain sound points when you're going to
Well,
have
I mean, things do get crazy loud in the stadium, and if you have little
compared
kids
to a
in there,
monster truck. Compared to
yeah.
a monster truck is 10 times more deafening.
But then
Just one
also,
truck.
if you're trying to keep like rules to like keep things somewhat on the production level,
Yeah, but now you're joking because these rules don't exist. They're suggestions. We both know this, you
well,
know?
and also, if let's just say tires can be, because I've been keep asking, like, I love the Dunlop guys. The Dunlop guys are
Mhm.
awesome. If you go check out that video, that's nice. But I talked to the mechanics, and I'm like, guys, what's the difference between your spec tire, between the A and B? Like, can I get a compound breakdown? You're telling me that the sidewalls are different compound than the center wall. And can I get like a real breakdown? Because you're telling me, from what I found out, that you can run 15 psi in these damn things, which to me, that
That
seems
was
like ice
crazy.
skating around. But
Yep.
because of the amount of rubber or something on there, they're
Compound.
so thin that they're allowed to do that. Like, it's crazy that those tires are that more factory unobtainium, which tells me that, you mean to tell me that Mitch with his pro circuit pipes are probably different pipes than what they're selling to the
Right.
privateer, and it
Yeah.
goes on and on from there.
Well, you think about the fact that was it Mitch Payton originally built the Star Yamaha motors,
Mhm.
if I'm not mistaken.
I heard that from somebody, but I didn't.
Yeah. When they first came out, they were having somebody else build their motors, and it wasn't until Star pulled them all under their own umbrella, and then they've got a trademark for something that I think the trademark ran out like in 2022 or 23 or something. And there's some speculation that this is why there's been a little bit of a bridging of the horsepower difference. Remember when J Mart was trying to, he was on the Geico bike trying to chase down J Coop,
Mhm.
on Star Yamaha. And it was just so obvious, even from the start, every straightaway drag race, there was definitely a distinct advantage. Now you don't see that big a disadvantage anymore. Now, some people are saying that's because the trademark at Star came to date, or however you refer to that, where it's no longer kept under tight seal. But I mean, I think it's great that Mitch has bridged that gap. We've heard a lot about, hey, we found something new in the testing this winter. It's faster bike, the whole 9 yards. But excuse me. Yeah, I don't. I'm not quite sure. 007 Act said that they've actually put in a muffler rule on Monster now. So I'd be curious to see what is the reasoning behind that. So
Yeah, because Monster Jam is I'd have to look into it to see, like, does even the guy that win, do they make any money, and are they just constantly always just it's a show, right? And talking with the
well,
Feld
they're
guys, they
yeah.
say that it's so easy to get outside New York Times and all these other publicity stuff for Monster Jam rather
Mhm,
than Supercross, because apparently nobody wants to talk Supercross because of the inherent dangers of it.
mhm.
And I'm going, okay, I get it, but also with the Olympics right now, there's already been a couple major incidents in skiing and in some other sports
Well,
but
here's what
everyone
I'd like to
touches that.
see. I'd like to see something get put in the trucks. When they essentially hit something and they literally go airborne and then they G out on those. I'd love to have a meter in there and compare the G forces of that guy jumping a truck and landing it and compare that to the G forces of a motorcycle. Like, we don't hear about, I mean, I'd love to get Damon Bradshaw on because he's been in those damn trucks.
Yeah.
The G forces between literally catching air on a 4x4, landing on four big ass wheels and stiff shocks compared to the G out. I'm not saying that would be less. I'm not saying it'd be more. I'd just be curious the difference. Because it's one thing to say, oh, you only see one dude jump a truck, but you don't know what it's doing to his insides. It could be obliterating his insides.
Mhm.
I mean, yes, he's
Well,
in a
and
harness
the
and a
thing is, like,
cage.
the IP of the trucks, it's all Gravedigger. Everybody fucking knows Gravedigger.
That's right.
But
Yeah.
can anyone name the last 4 drivers that drove Gravedigger?
No,
No.
no,
Absolutely not. Absolutely
no.
not.
And we've talked about it. This is one of the things I'm curious about, how the Feld model for monster trucks is distinctively different than what they do for Supercross, right? All those trucks are owned by Feld. The drivers are contracted by Feld. They get a salary by Feld. And like you say, it
Mhm.
is a show. Yes, you could even say it's
And
rigged,
coach,
but
that's what I'm trying to tell the teams, is like, I you guys wanna have all these big performance, and it's just important for you guys to win races. But also, me showing the fans the cool shit that's on your race bikes, that's also selling the stuff as well, you know?
well,
And
let's run with your football for a moment, okay? Daniel Blair goes over to Club MX and says, "Look, we're gonna be raw when we do our videos. If our rider's hurt, we're gonna talk about he's hurt. And we're gonna talk about his rehab, and what does the fan base look like for Club MX? It's
it's only gone
huge.
up.
It's huge, and you would think, okay, wait, wow, Daniel Blair's with Club MX and that whole group over there with Brandon and all the others. Who's the gentleman that you've interviewed from Club? There's two gentlemen. I apologize, I don't know their names.
Well, there's Hunter Yoder, he's one of the
No, no,
riders
no.
in
The
Mac
manager
Bullen.
wise, the manager wise, not
So
Chad Reed.
Mike is
Mike.
the
Yeah. So
head
you have
honcho
Mike
there.
and you have Daniel over there, and you have Brandon who decided we're going to go the opposite direction. We're not going to keep any secrets. We're going to be very raw. And you would think, right? Just some business common sense, just model success. Daniel Blair, and I keep saying Daniel, but he's kind of the image that we think about when we think about Club MX now that he's there, right? Mike's done a great job behind the scenes. They've got Chad Reed there now, and they're hiding nothing. Their weekly show, and because of that, we love it. I only
Dude,
bring that up because that's what you're trying to do. And if you can see the success that Daniel's had, if people would let you do the same thing, they'd have the same success that Club MX has had. That's all. And
well,
obviously, I don't have a
it's
vested
interesting,
interest.
like, in what I'm speaking just from experience. I'm not speaking to belittle anybody, because the
Mhm.
atmospheres are just different. Some people have a lot of fun racing and have low key anxiety and pressure, and then other people are just hardcore all the time, right? Like, when I'm in the KTM tent,
Yeah.
Carlos, Ian Harrison, Alden Baker, AP is probably the lightest guy around there, and it just generally loves what he's doing, right?
Mhm.
And then you have Prado. Prado looks like he's genuinely happy with what he's doing. Tomac,
Mhm.
I never try to break his focus or anything, because he's just so locked in. It seems like when he is when he is there, it's wild to see the amount of
Yeah.
just confidence, and it's got to be difficult to try to be locked in 24/7, not just when the gate drops,
Yeah.
but when you're just walking around,
Yeah.
it's a very, very interesting vibe. But overall, that tent is just, guys are having fun, cracking, and it doesn't matter if some things are going wrong or whatever.
Yep.
The Honda guys, like, I asked Cameron, Hunter's mechanic, like, hey, is it weird being here because Joe's out, Chase is out, and Jed is out, like, and he's like, it's kind of lonely, it's
Yeah.
it's very low key, like, we're just almost I Am Legend movie type steel where, like, we're in this big old rig, there's just not a whole lot going around, and Hunter is such a low key guy that they've done all the hard work at the tracks and everything, so there's no rushing and changing shit all over the place, which is, I
Yeah.
think, one of the reasons why he excels so much, because he was literally the guy that had a bad A1, but then has gone 2, 2, 2, 2,
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, the
One.
Suzuki guys, I guess they're kind of like a mix
Yeah.
where they're trying to figure stuff out, but it's still fun. Club MX, those guys are real lighthearted. The quad lock guys, like when I was talking to Martin Davalos, a lot of people were saying, hey, Johnny, because I went to go talk to them and they're like, hey, what do you want to do here? And I'm like, I just want to speak to the man in charge. Martin, is he here? And they're like, well, he's flying in at like 1, come back. I'm like, okay. So I come back and Martin's like, what do you want, Johnny? And I'm like, I want to help you. And so then he's like, huh, because I was warned by everyone that Martin is kind of a hard ass, and I'm like, well, it's probably just where he grew up, what country he's in.
Sure.
But once I told him, like, hey, I want to help you, he was like, okay, how can you help me? And I told him the same stuff. And so he started giving me it completely broke the ice, and he started giving me some details about stuff that he trusted me with the information, and I'm like, sweet, let's let me help you, right?
Yeah.
And those guys end up being real low key, and so it's interesting. So far, the Cowie guys and the Star Yamaha guys are probably the most military-ish, like,
Hmm.
where it's I don't know how else to prescribe it.
Again,
So
you threw a lot out there
I
that needs
did.
to
I
be
talked for a
no,
little
in a
bit.
good way, in a very good way, because the one thing that we as spectators, fans of the sport, that we love so much is these types of conversations. What we cannot even begin to relate is, you saw how emotional Sexton's mechanic was, right? They haven't had a win since what I think, what they say, 2022. I mean, the
Mhm.
guy was literally broken down into tears because of, can only imagine the amount of equity, that sweat equity that that gentleman's put in,
Well,
time away from
Jason,
his two.
he was Jason Anderson's mechanic.
Yeah.
So now he's Chase's mechanic, and I don't know, maybe the last win was there. Sorry to interrupt, but
No, no, no,
he's a
you're not
really cool guy,
interrupting at
by
all.
the way.
Well, he seems like a really cool guy, but think about the pressure. Kawasaki putting tens of millions of dollars, and they've hired some big wigs, right? Over the last couple of years, they've had some heavy hitters in there. Ever since Tomac left, he created a vacuum, very similar to like when RC left Honda, he created a vacuum. Yeah.
This guy,
Well, and
this
I'll give
guy,
you,
but just quick
yeah,
shout out. He's the dude that is the crazy SOB that flies the little sky cam around, chasing
no
all the guys,
way.
getting all the perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Go
I
follow him
say
on
to make,
Instagram and everything like that. The
yeah.
dude is an incredible pilot.
Yeah. And thank you for doing it, buddy. Cause I even said to my wife, I could not imagine the pressure of flying a drone inside of a stadium, following these guys around without accidentally running into them. And
Oh yeah.
it's
And
insane.
coach, finish your thought, but we got some comments about like my thumbnail as far
Yeah.
as the Deegan arrow. When we're going to get into that, but sorry.
No,
I
the thing of it is, and this is, please take this for face value. When I was working with Ashley Feilich, she was factory Honda. And we went out to the opening round. This is when the women's races ran in between the 450s and 250s. And we got the whole shot, and Jessica Patterson ran us down. And we had to go into a Monday morning meeting. And if you remember Dave Arnold, right? So we walk in. If you guys can imagine, it's like a scene from a movie. It's got a big conference table. It's probably puts 50 seats around it. It's enormous. You walk in one corner is RC's bike, and the other side is no, excuse me, it was McGrath's bike that was in the corner. They have all the number one plates going around there, and the other corner they had I'm going to Miguel Duhamel. Remember him running the RC1 with the single-sided wheel? That was the one swing arm, one bolt. My point is you walk in there, and I'm in there, Ashley's in there, her mom's in there, and then the doors close like a movie scene. And just, why did we not win on Saturday? Right now, this is Ashley Filick. This isn't Chase Sexton, Tomac. This isn't Jet, right? But you realize, and it's like a scene that you can only imagine. Like you hear about the conversations. I was fortunate enough working with Dunge when Roger and Dunge had left Suzuki, and we go to KTM, and Roxon's working with Alden. I'm working with Dunge, and we're sitting in the lounge, and you've got all the mechanics are in the lounge. You've got the guy from WP Suspensions in there. Dunlop is in there. Roger's in there. Everybody's in there, and it's not a polite conversation. It's not like, hey guys, what do you want to get for dinner? I mean, it is a grill fest. I mean, the race was over by 10:30, 11. We didn't even get out of the rig until 1 o'clock in the morning. Now, that was when Roger and Ryan had just come over. So the KTM, they're still shaking that down, right? At this point, they hadn't even won a race, much less won a championship. The conversations are not very nice. Like nobody's looking to say, hey, man, what's going on? It's why did we not win? Now, the only reason I bring that up is being in that experience with KTM, with closed doors, with Roger, it's not enjoyable. Being in a closed door with Dave Arnold at Factory Honda in a conference room, not very enjoyable. I could not imagine Chase Sexton comes over, gets the win. A week later, he can't barely break the top 10. Marchbanks doesn't make the first round, gets hurt for the second round. He's getting beat by the Suzuki boys. And this is Kawasaki, who's put tens of millions of dollars into that program. Not a fun Monday morning meeting to be going to. That's for darn sure. So when you talk about the environment being so stodgy almost, I can't imagine, because they've got to report not to the corner office. They got to report to Japan. And this is Kawasaki, right? With all their big dozers and heavy moving. This is not a fun conversation to be had. So I think when you, Johnny, walk in and you feel the tension, I think we can't forget that there's a huge business side behind it. And whether we like it or not, those team managers are expected to figure it out. We've given you the money, and all the jokes aside, right? Suzuki with a Kickstarter is beating Kawasaki's. Ouch.
But I get the sense, right? Like, that Jason isn't, when I was talking to him, he was like, God damn it, Johnny, you're gonna get me in trouble with the questions you're asking here. I just unfiltered. I got the perception that my notion of that bike is not on par with Kenny's is, in my opinion, more accurate. You know, if I have to say something, because what Jason said, and go back and look at the interview that I had with him, was my motor is fast, but I podiumed on the Cowie. And I'm like, that's all I needed to hear, Jason. And so I think in that tent, they're trying to figure it out, you know, because Kenny, different semi, Jason, different semi. They bring 2 semis each. Like, that's expensive right there. And I guarantee that Suzuki's better than what it's been over the past. And I maybe that Jason's bike is better than Colt's bike. But I think Kenny has done so much testing, and I just get that even talking with those guys, they're like, you're not wrong, right? The bikes are basically identical. However, Kenny gets first dibs on stuff. It trickles down to, if we have more, to Jason, and so on, right? And that's why, yes, I'm big fan of Marchbanks. And when we had David Bailey on, and he was saying that he thinks Levi Kitchen should have had Marchbanks's ride. No slight on the riders, but just from a business standpoint, what you would try to do. I sort of feel that like Jason should have still had the deal with next to
Cowie.
Sexton, but then
Mhm.
he probably would have had to take a pay cut because Sexton, I'm assuming, is taking 80% of the entire budget over there at Factory Kawasaki. And,
Yeah.
Jason is a $1 million guy. So he's
Mhm.
probably not wanting to do anything for any less, So
Well,
lots of
it
dynamics going on.
you get into the musical chairs of teams because I don't think Jason was getting paid that much at Cowie, unfortunately. It was like you say, $1 million is not inexpensive, but it's not 2.5 like Sexton is getting. So when you look at that from the standpoint of why did Jason have to go? Well, they didn't even offer him a renewal of the contract because they were bringing Prado over, right? So
Mhm.
then Prado bails, and then Prado goes for 500K getting Vial's money at KTM and is working on bonuses only. And so when you look at that, Jason didn't have a choice, right? I'm sure Jason would have loved to have stayed there because he wasn't happy with the idea that he just essentially got kicked to the curb because they brought Prado over. That was just the way it was. So now you flip the whole narrative. Would Jason Anderson be better than Marchbanks? Well, if we run with the thought that you just said, if Jason Anderson is on subpar equipment to Kenny and he's been running in the top 3, top 5 almost every one of these rounds. Now he has faded back this weekend. He was sick, but damn, you got to give Jason even more credit if he's on a bike that's not as good as Roxon's, and Roxon had to work hard to get around Anderson.
That
And
track was difficult to pass.
Mhm.
Like, Coach, when I'm sitting there, and again, shout out to the members that have the members only content. Sitting there, because I was the only guy in the middle of the track. All the other camera guys, I don't know what they were doing. The best seat in the house was right there by the whoops because you could run
Yep.
across everything. I probably looked like an idiot running back and forth because I was watching the race and I was following what was going on. But dude, it was like a missile was driving by you because those guys are doing 60 effing miles an hour across the start on a supercross bike that literally probably shouldn't be geared to do 60. Like that's
Mhm.
motocross type gearing. And when I saw them still running, like some of the teams, were running 1351s, which I was like,
Mhm.
okay, so this might be more of a stock motor because you're gearing for some speed here because this track is so fast. But then looking at some of the factory bikes, and they're still running, they went down one tooth, I've seen
Mhm.
them normally at like Houston, they were on 53s, and now they were on 52s. I'm
Mhm.
going, that's all you changed is one tooth for generally 1 to 2 gears for
Yeah.
how fast this track was. But of course, there's got to be some other stuff going on there. But
Well,
lack of
let's
train of
go.
thought, hard to pass, especially at speed. Like I was just looking at the whoops, like is somebody gonna lose it here? I was trying not to hang out at the
Mhm.
end of them,
End of it.
and
Yep.
then across the start, guys are coming here, and I'm like, dude, if somebody accidentally like head wobbles, they are cleated out. The flaggers, the medical personnel, and me too. So
Yep.
yeah,
Well, it goes back to I cannot imagine the closed door meetings at Honda when you get beat by a Suzuki. I can't imagine the closed door meetings at Kawasaki when you get beat by a Suzuki. All joking aside, they don't take that stuff lightly. Now,
mm-mm.
there's a lot of scuttlebutt that Suzuki's kind of coming back around. They're getting more interested in it, but no disrespect, and I don't know the exact numbers, but I would even wager that Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki, those guys have invested a lot more money than what Suzuki has in the last 5 years. There's no way.
Dustin
Not with
Pipe
Honda
said that they are starting to get some more help from
starting to
Suzuki.
get more help, but Dustin Pipes has taken the hit on the chin for the last 5 years, having Kenny trying to get Kenny everything he can, just shy
Mm-hmm.
of having to hand build it because it's not available. Dustin Pipes doesn't get enough credit for what that gentleman has done with that team because think about it. It's you're trying to run a team on limited parts, limited R&D, limited, and you've got one of the most. Kenny is not shy of being very particular with his bike. He's very finicky with what he likes. I mean, I've heard stories where there's some suspension companies that literally drove through the night to get Kenny some suspension when they were first trying to get Kenny when he was that summer or that whenever that Yeah, it would have been the summer when he was trying all the different bikes, and he got a lot of video coverage on that because he was testing all the different bikes. People were bending over backwards for Kenny, and Dustin Pipes should get a lot of credit for that.
There's
Should
a
have
thought, coach.
Well, the problem was it goes back to musical chairs
Okay,
because
just for the
I know
people that listen to audio only, comment is by Bullweavy 8112. Ducati should have gone after Anderson more aggressively.
well, they wanted Tomac, and it went all the way up to the brass tacks hours, and then Tomac decided to go to KTM, and unfortunately, it's just that musical chairs, and Anderson wasn't really on the short list.
He
So by
probably
the time
already signed with where he was.
exactly, that's what I was going to say. By the time it came down to where, we've all heard the stories. Nobody thought Cooper Webb was going to win the championship, including Yamaha. But then in his contract, most people are aware of the fact that if you win the championship, part of your contract is your salary doubles. So if you're making 1.2 million and now all of a sudden Webb's making 2.4, there's no money for Tomac, right? Well, Yamaha didn't predict that halfway through the year. So they gave Tomac an offer. Tomac didn't think it was worth it. Tomac couldn't get something somewhere else. Then all of a sudden Yamaha's entire budget has to go to Cooper Webb. And then, of course, they've got Deegan. So there was no money left. So now it's that constant timing of the musical chairs. Johnny, you've talked about it. The fact that these guys do test other bikes, even though they're still under contract. Nobody's going to go sign with the team without riding the bike, period.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter how much money you offer them. Perfect example is Tomac was offered a tremendous amount of money to go to Ducati. And he said, I don't want a bike that's not established. So that just validates when someone says, oh, if you throw enough money at him, they'll show up. No, he rode it. Didn't feel like it was a good enough platform. And he didn't feel like there was enough R&D behind it. If he needed something changed, they didn't have it.
Dude, I've got some footage of Tomac and just his bike just exploding. Like, I don't know how anyone can ride a motorcycle that's that fast. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I have to put it into some comparison. So make sure you're subscribed and you look at some of the shorts and some of the longer form stuff. But dude,
hey, we've got to address Justin Helmer's got a good question. If Chase had stayed at KTM, would Tomac have been at Suzuki? Chase had already signed with Cowie really, really, really early in the year. He did the same thing when he signed with KTM. Like,
well, that's kind of why, like the whole motocross, he was.
Yeah. Well, and people don't realize this, and I don't think I'm saying something that hasn't already been discussed publicly, but when Chase signed with KTM, it was like before Daytona the year before his contract was up. Like it had never been done before where somebody had signed really, really, really early. So it makes it easier for Tomac and some of these big power guys when they know that contract's already inked. It gives them a lot more clout to be able to go in and negotiate.
Tremor 84, he has joined the exclusive members list. Hey, I'll be posting more of the exclusive content throughout the week too. And again, like I said, I'm planning on some, hopefully, MotoGPs, some street bike racing, some other stuff, and trying to get my credentials for Daytona, because Daytona is AMA. It's not Feld.
Well, if you come to Daytona, I'll get that Airbnb down the street from you, like we talked about a couple of years ago, because you're only 30 minutes from the track. So let me know and I can get that booked.
Cool. It might be Randy and I, supposedly.
No, that's cool. I'll get you the house. It's just down the street from us, and we're only 30 minutes from the track. And then this goes back to, a lot of people are not aware of this. Ducati was going after Roczen really, really hard. And I have to give Dustin Pipes props yet again, because they were able to retain him. And, Kenny is,
and we're just on a roll here. Steezy Breezy.
No, I think it's great.
And I wonder, Steezy Breezy, were you the dude that helped interview? And I said that I'd give you another, like I said, 5 minutes of my time. Not a problem. I'll have to try to call you sometime this week so that you can get that, because you said your audio was messed up. But I appreciate you stopping me at the Fan Fest. And, thanks for joining the club, man.
Absolutely. And, Johnny, the cool thing about what you're doing in the membership area is it's nothing that people can find anywhere else, whether it's your point of views or it's your perspective. Or I still love, I'm a little bit of a geek in this stuff. I loved when you're looking at Prado's line, you're like, I don't know about this one. And then you go over and the next one's straighter. It's stuff that you've got the privilege to be on the track, and you're bringing stuff to us who are just total fanboys of the sport We want to see that kind of stuff. And I think your numbers represent that. So being a member only makes sense.
And that shit should be on Race Day Live. I mean, I truthfully, I love AC. His analytical stuff is great. But we should be doing more of that stuff too, make it a little bit more interesting.
Mhm.
Just saying.
Well, don't be surprised if they do, because you've talked about it, but unfortunately, it won't be you that's doing it. That's the part that bugs me. But let's not get on that. Let's not get on that thread of thought, because that'll put you in trouble with people. Because that's
No,
me.
I don't care about being in trouble with
No,
people,
it
but
it
let's
just
just not be negative, you know?
no, it's not about being negative. I just would like you to. I'd just like to see you get a fair shake. That's all. But
Well, to be fair,
eventually,
I asked them, you know, I'm like, "Hey
hmm
guys, this is the kind of shit I could do, and I could be a resource for stuff." So far,
yeah.
I haven't gotten emails back or anything, you know? So
Well, I
there's
guess the problem that I have with it is it'd be one thing if you didn't demonstrate that you're good at what you do. Again, I know you don't like to hear me give you props, but you
no, we
validate
can
that you're
stop
good
this.
at what you do, right? And then you've already proven that you've got a good, loyal following. We love seeing what you do because the
Hold on
numbers
real
back it
quick.
up.
I know 007, I had to change stuff because I'm upping the game, and so it's gonna be more active there. So, send me a message on Instagram because it did have to change, and I'll Venmo you back the 1 month of the membership fee so that you can hop up to the next tier, dude. And again, sorry, I did post that I was changing it, but if you got hooked under there, I'll make it right with you.
Well, it goes back to the idea that you're good at what you do. You bring insight, and then the idea that you can deliver, and then you've already got a big base. You've got 65,000 subscribers here on YouTube. You've got 20 million views after a race weekend. And again, this is not speaking negatively, but this is what disappoints me when Daniel Blair is the fans' choice and he was not, he was kicked to the curb. Politics, all the other garbage that goes with it. Know who your client is. That's the part I don't understand. And you look at, I don't mean to bring up a controversial subject. I don't watch football. I'm not a football guy, but I heard that the halftime show was with some dude that was super controversial, right? Know your crowd, know your fan base.
Bad Bunny?
Bad
Something like
Bunny.
that? Something
Yeah. So, and again, I don't want the chat room to get, I'm not trying to distract it here. It's just the idea that you're good at what you do. Why would you, and all right, I'm going to say this and I'll probably get kicked in the teeth for this, but I'm okay with it. You're better than 95% of the industry. It would be one thing if you sucked. I would never give you props for being better at something that you aren't, right? If there were people in the industry doing it better than you, I'd say, dude, they deserve to have it, but they're not. They
Well,
don't have the
they
numbers.
try, which is great, right? And
But they don't have the numbers. See, that's what I don't understand. If you're looking at business, you're not some dude that just rolled out of college. You have 3 months with a camera and you're like, dude, hire me. I'm your best dude.
oh, coach,
You
get
go
this. So
for it.
I'm down there at the track, right? And you know, I'm got credentials and I'm allowed to be down there. And I have some of the media guys come up to me and they're like, Johnny, you shouldn't be here. You're social media. And I look at them and I'm like, I got the same damn credentials as you do. Just because your vest says video, mine says social media. To be honest, all your shit is being posted on social media. So
Yeah.
we're all fucking social media here. So I'm not moving my ass anywhere, right? So it just
But who
just
who thinks you don't have to say who it was, but who thinks they've got the audacity to make a comment like that? I mean, the only person that should have a comment to you in any format should be David Prater or Brennan. Other than that, nobody should be opening their mouth to anybody else that's down there with a pass.
There was that stadium was fairly packed. Apparently, it was the best Glendale attendance
Nice.
ever. And I've been
Nice.
trying to get actual numbers, and Supercross won't give me actual numbers. They say that it's just been the sold out one, and well,
Gotcha.
not sold out one, but just their highest attendance, you know. And so I'm trying to dig a little bit deeper. Like, sweet, I'm super glad that more people
Mhm.
are going to the race, but I wanna know the numbers. I know just by googling that stadium is 63,400 seats, right? Did we sell 35,000 of those seats, which is massive, right?
Mhm.
Or was it 50,000, right? That's the kind of thing that I want to know, just because I'm more of an analytical person that way. So I'm going to continue to keep asking, and
Mhm.
maybe they'll give it to me eventually. Maybe they won't, but I'll keep asking.
I just can't imagine being a bean counter in the corner, realizing you get 20 million views on a weekend when you go to the races. And I wouldn't want to capitalize on that and bring some of that attention to Race Day Live, or, they've got the Racer X feature that they do in each one of the supercrosses where, just take you walking down the line and cut it down into 60 seconds about Prado's choice and Sexton's choice and why, and hey, inside the box, outside the box, and then looking at the first turn and how many times did we see people go in first and come out in 12th, right?
Yeah,
I
I've got
mean,
some more shit, guys. So make sure that you look, because I got some interesting stuff on there. And coach, whatever, if it comes to it, sweet. And like talking with David Bailey, I was like, dude, am I barking up the wrong tree, David?
mm-mm,
And David's
mm-mm,
like, Johnny, just don't think you're going to get anything more out of it than what you are right now. And I'm like, okay,
mhm.
well said, David. Thank you. And so
Yeah.
that's why I want to go to some MotoGPs. And last year I was declined credentials. But what's funny is like 1/3 of the MotoGP riders follow me on Instagram, which tells me that they're big motocross
Mhm.
fans. And because all of them cross train on stuff. And so
Yep.
that's something that I'm working into too, not just being and what was funny is like at the scrub meetings, they been asking everybody to go down there. And so some of the people that normally aren't down there are there, and they kind of make a joke of it, where it's like, dude, this is supposed to be, make a joke of it in the paddock, but at the scrub meeting, it's the press conference. Don't
Yeah.
don't make a joke of it. But okay,
No.
we're an hour into it, and
Mhm.
the arrow, right, with Deegan,
Yep.
was it too much? Or is it really towards Levi? Is he really just destroying the confidence of Levi? Because on track, Levi was catching Deegan. Plain and simple, the lap times prove it. He was coming through the pack. Ironically, Levi was getting into being super aggressive with Cameron. And
Mhm.
this is my take on him being aggressive with his teammate. He knows that his teammate is not going to kill him. He knows that his
Mhm.
teammate is not going to take him out. I'm just going to be completely honest. If I was in Levi's shoes, I can see Levi saying like, I'm not going to push that hard on Deegan, because Deegan is going to fight back harder. He's just not going to give a rat's ass about stuff. And that's just the intimidation that has happened. And I will say this, coach, before you come in, is Deegan looked like he could have done a GNCC out there. He was not just trying to win by 100 seconds, a full lap. He was
Mhm.
just managing it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that Deegan's antics are too much. Again, you laid out a lot there to try to unpack. What I think's interesting is we heard at the end of the race that Levi was the fastest guy on the track. You mentioned earlier it was hard to pass on the track. What's that, Johnny?
Oh, just one of the comments from, I don't even know, Barneba. I don't think Levi is phased by it. Dude is chill. It's not true just because Deegan is beating him. He's just better right now. This sport
Well, I
is so
think,
mental, and
yeah.
uh,
Well, you
politely
just gotta,
disagree. I think
yeah.
Deegan is living rent free in Levi's head, unfortunately. And I don't know how you couldn't, right? Because when a guy can be faster than you and also push you off the track multiple times, and he does it to his own teammates, like, just, sorry, coach, thinking about it, how Levi and Deegan, A1 was not the best for Deegan, but he
Mhm.
then immediately turned it around and totally stopped the progression of Max. Max is such a talented and confident, I guess his confidence is wobbly right now because of what happened with Deegan, but he totally knocked him off the ship, because Max was out front, would lead half the race. And then all of a sudden, once Deegan started being super aggressive with him, we haven't seen Max back up there, which is not like Max. Deegan is destroying the field mentally to make it easier for him to race. Like, I've never this is the Jason Lawrence of 2026, but in a more professional, less punk-ish way, maybe.
Yeah. He's getting free rent in everybody's head because he's just absolutely winning. You know, we are so acclimated to Jet right now, and we forget how far he came in such a short period of time. Right? You look at Jet winning the 450 championship in his first year in the class, and we literally have become desensitized to the fact that Jet. I mean, as much as people were butthurt on the idea that he said he's going after McGrath's records, why should that offend anybody? Like, it's a dude that's just setting the bar very high for himself. And then now, until he
Who,
keeps,
Jet?
unfortunately,
When he said
Jet. Yeah, when Jet said that initially, you know, they kind of put it on par with like Mike Alessi's believe the hype type thing, right? And so the thing that I thought was interesting is he's just setting the bar high for himself, but then he comes out that first year and then he wins. So what's the old saying? It isn't bragging if you can back it up. When you look at Deegan, we have the opinion that we have of him because he's simply pounding everybody into the ground like a hammer and a nail. Now, here's what's interesting, and I apologize, I missed the name that was attached to it here. What was interesting is when Levi doesn't have anybody around him, he's now one of the fastest guys on the track. Now, again, I think if he was right on Deegan's wheel, I think Deegan would knock it up another notch, like we spoke about. He does just enough to win. Like, he didn't look like he was trying to press the envelope. He just strung together a bunch of good laps, and he won by 15 seconds or whatever he won by. So the idea that Deegan's getting free rent in everyone's head is just because of the same thing that Jet did. Just start winning races, and then people will start worrying about themselves. They'll totally forget about you.
But then Deegan's also talking shit that accelerates that.
Well, how much shit has Deegan talked, and how much shit has people said that Deegan said? Like, I don't see Deegan walking around. A perfect example, when they bring up Levi and he goes, "Who?" Right? That was the quote of the week.
I guess that's the shit talking about, is like, that's the confident, but it's not necessarily, it's indirect shit talk.
Yeah, he's showing that I don't give two shits. And Royal Z said right here, you know, he has zero fucks to give. And it's just spot on. Deegan, and he's done this ever since he was on 85s. And AC used to do this as well. He always is comparing his lap times to the next class that he's going to. AC, we did this when I was working with AC at Loretta's, our goal was to try to get that Super Mini up on the top 10 fastest laps of the week. It wasn't realistic, but when you're already the fastest amateur in the world, you have to have something to try to beat. We trained with Zach Freeberg. AC would go out of his way to try to beat Zach Freeberg on a 450. It was a lot of work. So when you look at Deegan, and I don't think he's being a dickhead. I'm sure it's a little bit of a backslap, but when he asks about, are you watching Levi's? Or excuse me, I forget who was doing the interview. I think it was Supercross Voices. And they had reposted the question about, were you watching where Levi was at? And he goes, I don't care.
Yeah, it was actually Scott with Moto Now blog, which I've been trying to help them out because they are probably the best journalists in there. They always get clipped. They go to a lot of races, and Moto Now blog, they have let me put it up, because the way they do you continue, Coach.
Yeah.
I want to give them a little bit of props, because I've been wanting to keep helping them with stuff, because they do such a good job.
And when you look at Deegan, right? Yeah, he started the year by saying some shit talk. And then you noticed how, like, remember the first couple of rounds, he was all business when he got up on the podium. Was very short answers. And then he got a couple wins under his belt, and then he gets a little bit cocky and a little bit mouthy. And then you notice how he's kind of pulled that back. And I do think Brian's at the helm of a lot of this. Brian knows how to use the media, stir the stink pot, then hit the pause, hit neutral for a little bit, hit the stink button for a little bit, hit pause for a while. And then Brian does an incredible job of letting the media continue to create the momentum that he started, right? Deegan will get it started. The media will just continue to fuel it and keep it pressed. And then what does Brian do? He brings up he'll pivot 2 or 3 degrees, do something different. And Johnny, I'm going to give you credit for this. You even asked Deegan about his starting blocks being so big. Okay. And then we hear so much about, after the first round when Deegan got 4th, he's like, oh no, that's not happening again. I'm going to be working on my starts. And now he's whole shotted all 3 of the last weekend. Why am I drawing a mental blank? 3 rounds. what do they call it?
Triple Crown.
Triple Crown. Thank you. He hole shotted all 3 Triple Crowns, and then he hole shotted again on Saturday night. So the idea that Deegan's like, wait, why didn't I win round 1? So very Ricky Carmichael-esque. All he did was do starts for the entire freaking week. Now he can't be beat to the first turn. And this goes back to what you were saying. If there's a
You know what's funny too, Coach, is low key Deegan emulates Tomac. I think Tomac has been such an influential part of Deegan because every race that I've been to, they start in the exact same spot. Whatever Tomac starts is where Deegan starts.
Well, do you find it interesting that Deegan bought a big parcel of land down the street in Cairo, Georgia? He's emulating what Tomac did out in Cortez. I mean,
it's low key hard to go unnoticed with that stuff. They have the same gates.
Well, and then you look at the whole methodology, you look at the whole mindset, and Deegan has built his entire reputation around the internet and
well, he rides a lot like Tomac too.
Very much so.
I guess a side of Jet.
Yeah. Well, and that's the part that I think is going to be dangerous. I know that it's a very polarizing comment. People think Deegan's either going to get his ass handed to him on a silver platter or he's going to shake it up with Jet from the very beginning. I don't think anybody would be surprised on either of those, looking at what he's done. I've eaten crow with Hayden Deegan because when he almost didn't even make the main event for the amateur race, at that time it was called the next race, right? I mean, he's out there 3rd, 4th, 5th place getting beat. People are like, this dude wants to go pro. And then sure as shit, the next week they go pro, put him on a full factory star bike, and the son of a gun goes out and just rips everyone's legs off. That's the part that makes Deegan, whether you like him or you don't, you have to give credit where credit's due. The kid will step up. He does not succumb to pressure. He feeds off of it. He thrives on it. And the idea that he's damn good, his corner speed, you saw the pictures with him on the 450. His corner speed on a 450 is ridiculous. And what's scary to me is that's the corner speed that we saw on a 450 was at Supercross. What the hell is he going to do on an outdoor track where he's better? And if he keeps these starts up and he gets up in the front early, I'm not saying that the 450 class lacks talent at all, but you give that cat a top 3 start, you're not running him down, I don't believe. Now, if he's 8th or 10th,
this whole arrow thing,
shit out of him.
Is this just targeting everyone, not just the 250 class? Because
just 250s. Yeah, okay. Just 250s. Because, a lot of people, they talk the crap. And it goes back to, like we were saying, Levi, when he can't see he can't see Hayden, Levi hauls ass. He's good.
But what's interesting, Coach, is the dynamic because Levi wasn't Deegan knew Levi was catching him. He had to, because he was watching what was going on behind him, which, yes, I'm still in the club of he was riding just enough to win the whole Jet antics, where if you get close to me, I'll just drop it down another second and I'll blow your wad right there. But I'll let you believe that you're catching me. Which is crazy detrimental to like the whole psychosis of racing with somebody. But anyway, like didn't
James Stewart do that? Didn't James let somebody by and then ran him back down again?
Dude, what national was it? I remember when he did it to Chad Reed in the 250 class.
Yeah.
Is he just caught him from way back and then just left him and then just slowed up. And I think he was on a 125 while Chad Reed was on a 250F, and Chad Reed passed him back, and then he just passed him again.
But I mean now what's interesting is we don't throw JS7 under the booth as a cocky prick for doing that. We're just like, that dude is fast as heck on a bike. Look at this.
Well, we didn't have social media, Coach. That was the difference.
True. Yeah, that's true. And think about it, when James got arrested for impersonating a police officer on the way to the airport, if that had social media at the time, what that would have looked like.
I didn't know that he did that.
Yeah. If you know where Haines City is at and you know where the Orlando International Airport is at, he would come up 27, jump on the I-4, then he would take the 408 or he'd take the freeway around to the airport. He jumped in Malcolm's truck and he got one of those light bars that goes back and forth. And
Oh,
they got up on the back of a car and they were tailgating him. And then they threw the light up on the dashboard and they tailgated him. And they eventually they went around him. And then when they went around him, the police officers held their badge up to the window. So the guy driving the truck took off like they were going to drop. Like you're in a lifted 4x4. You're not going to outrun any car of any size. So they tried outrunning the police officers, and they, like dodo birds, they drove to the airport. The police just followed them to the airport and arrested
wait,
one man
so
at the airport.
they tried turning their lights on to an off-duty cop, and that's how they got caught.
Yeah, they were tailgating the police officers,
So
and
they
then they
were
put that
tailgating
light.
an off-duty cop just to
Yep.
try to get them to move out of the way by turning
Yeah.
the lights
Yeah.
on, and then
So they got it.
there's
and
irony
then,
right there.
so then they took it off the dashboard and they stuck it in their suitcase. And then when they got to the airport, they got in trouble for hiding the evidence, impersonating a police officer, on and on it goes. And so, here in Orlando, we had this 6 o'clock news of James Stewart, professional motocross star, walking out of the jail. Can you imagine that on social media nowadays? I mean, it would just be next level. So, when you look at James,
next T-shirt,
well, you look at
Free Bubba.
James. Remember
Free
when
Bubba.
James got all the pushback because he was riding for Red Bull and he went down to Miami and he did that thing where you create a contraption, you try to fly it off the building, and people are like, James can go do that, but he can't race outdoor nationals. And then he was getting shit for, he's in good enough shape to do stuff like that, but then we can't really go racing. And of course, his contract was big enough at the time that he was getting paid, even though he wasn't racing, because he had an injury clause. And the story just continues to grow. But, when you bring it back to Deegan and what he's doing, this is what I think is interesting. And we brought it up earlier. What if Levi hadn't gone down in that first race because of his whole shot device not letting go? Because that sucks for Levi, right? Then you saw Cameron McAdoo this past weekend. He's coming in the first turn. Now we're at round 5 and he's still slamming.
Is it indirectly shaken confidence is what makes you go to the guys at Cowie and say, hey, I need to get a start ahead of Deegan. How do we do that? And they start looking at stuff and they're like, well, let's lower our whole shot device because you need to start ahead of Deegan because you can be faster than Deegan. And if you start ahead of him, you don't have to worry about getting in front of all these antics. So
yeah, I mean, maybe, but now we're in round number 5 and the guys are still having a hard time getting the device to let go, resulting in first turn crashes.
Well, supposedly this weekend they changed it, right?
Yeah, but why was McAdoo still slapping the front end coming into the first turn? I was like, these poor Kawasaki dudes, I think they're more worried about whether or not the whole shot device is going to release now than whether or not they're going to get the whole shot.
And then Coach, I was getting like a weird indirect, I went up to the Dirtworks guys because I don't know if you guys saw my Instagram reel about all the wood chips.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And they were all pissed that I was showing all the wood chips on the side of the track, not everything that was mixed in. And I was like, well, one, for context, I wanted you guys to know this goes there and it's all wrapped up for moisture retention. And so they're all pissed about it. And so, I like.
But nobody watches your videos, Johnny. What are they mad about? Nobody watches your videos. What are they mad about?
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody watches my videos. What's funny?
You're mad at me because I said it, but you don't think I'm good enough to work with me, but you're mad that I said it and so many people saw it. So, okay, that makes sense.
Anyway, I went up to the Dirtworks guys and I was just like, hey, are you Ross? And anyway, we worked it out. And I'm like, hey, dude, I appreciate what you do. Like, this shit is hard.
Yeah.
Okay. If Ken rocks and I ask him a question, he says he doesn't like the track. That's one comment. But personally, these wood chips help hold moisture. And I know how fucking dry it is here in Glendale. So don't instantly take it as negative because I'm not talking shit. I'm letting everyone know, hey, this is what it's for. So it's just, it was just another interesting conversation.
Think about those guys.
Coach,
now that the Patriots
I've noticed some of the riders, some of the mechanics, they will before qualifying and everything, they'll come up there and they will be like, hey, did you see this? Did you see this? And so they're watching social media of, I'm assuming, a line or something to be like, hey, go try this, go try that. So
Well, we know filming is done a lot, and we know that Dartfish and all that software is being used as well. Yeah,
And for those of you that don't know what Dartfish is just think a Lit Pro, but quite a bit more expensive. Where if you're into video games, it's like a ghost overlay. Well, they'll put two riders together and they'll see what line is actually faster inside of the program.
Well,
Very expensive, but all
think
motorsports
about
use it.
think about the Dirtworks guys now. They're going to lose 2 days to the Seattle Seahawks winning the Super Bowl, and now they can't because they'd have to use the stadium. So they lose 2 full days of building the track this week, as if they
Yeah,
don't
dude.
already have
When
enough
I was in the
pressure.
press box, because I'm there late, so there's the Feld meeting going on for everything that's going to happen for the race, for the next day there.
Yeah.
And yeah, they brought it up. They're like, dude, low key, we kind of don't want Seattle to win because they're going to have a big old parade and we're not going to be able to get in there. And like, I don't know how we're going to get this done. And I was like, the Super Bowl's this weekend?
Yeah, I said the same thing to Michaela. I go,
after
the
that, I
same
was like,
weekend of
oh
the
shit.
Olympics?
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
that's going to make logistics kind of hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I was surprised. I mean, I don't know all the powers that, I don't know, Olympics, same weekend as the Super Bowl, you had opening ceremonies, but this was the first weekend, which usually is pretty high viewership. And then you're competing against the Super Bowl on top of it. So yeah, a lot going on for sure.
And I think Seattle's an open stadium too, isn't it?
I would be lying if I had that committed to memory.
I think it
do
is.
not
I
know.
think it may be the first mud race potentially.
That's what Tremino just said.
Yeah.
Trey
And
Minor,
okay,
84.
right before we just end and let go here,
Yeah.
I told everybody that Hunter was going to win, and he did not. Kenny won.
How frustrating must it be that he's had 4 different winners?
Well, talking with his mechanic Cameron, he said that Hunter doesn't care. Hunter is the most grounded person, where he's like, I'm doing what I need to do. And talking to him at the media scrub, which I guess is the press conference.
Yeah.
He essentially was like, yeah, the red plate is cool, but I don't give a shit because I want to be the points leader at the last race.
Yeah.
So if I don't get it till the last race, sweet. If I keep it till then, sweet. But right now it doesn't mean shit. And it just again, I'm on the ballpark, and I know, Coach, it's finally coming to fruition. You've been touting Hunter for so long, and I haven't completely been on your side about it. And again, having the ability to change your view through new information is something that I believe everyone is lacking. And I'm more on Hunter's side than I ever have been before, just because of his perseverance. And, talking with his mechanic, he said in 2020, there was a moment where he wanted to quit, where he's like, I'm done. I am done. I am out of here. I keep getting hurt. Like, I can't do this anymore. I'm just going to retire. And I wonder how much his brother and his mechanic and, everyone helped. Because when I was talking with Cameron, I was like, dude, you don't get enough clout, because not only do you have to make sure that this bike is safe, but you also have to be the therapist.
Yeah. Well, and that's the hard part, is we haven't seen a healthy Hunter since he got here, as we've talked about. And now we do. And the thing that I like about where Hunter's at is, it's one thing that he hasn't won every race, but the thing that he's been beat by different people at different times. It's like, if you think about it, it's like, okay, if I can't beat Tomac and he wins everything, all right, I'm really only worried about Tomac. Well, then he's been able to beat Tomac. And then you have Sexton wins a race, and then you've been able to beat Sexton. And if you think about Hunter and you look at the numbers that he's playing, he's been able to show that he can beat just about everybody, because he has. Like if the highest you've only been is 4th place or 5th place, and there's the same 4 guys that are always beating you, you're like, well, I'm the 5th place best guy. He's beaten everybody who's won, because there's been so many different winners. And you think about how cool that is. And so with all the R&D that Honda's got put in, and then you look at the idea that Hunter is healthy, Yeah, I think I don't want to get too far over the front of our skis, but wouldn't it be amazing if all of a sudden you see Hunter, he is the
Mhm.
last man standing, and then he carries that into that momentum to outdoors. I always quote this with you. You know, Jeff Emmig's really big on I'd rather have momentum than a points lead. And I think it goes saying Hunter's got the momentum right now if you're gonna argue on consistency.
Love this comment. Hunter reminds me of Wyndham.
Yeah,
Agreed.
agreed.
However, a faster Wyndham, which
Mhm.
I guess I will only just add that. Somebody that's so technically sound.
That's pretty crazy when you think about it, because you
Yeah.
think about Wyndham, smooth as glass. And, you know, here would be the crazy part. In your opinion, what's it going to take for Hunter to finally get the win? Because we've seen so many different types of track conditions, and he's been Captain Consistent.
Coach, I
He
think
gets
Cooper Webb has proved that you don't have to win to be the champion.
Well,
And
that was evident last year, right? I
uh-huh.
mean, and we're not even giving Cooper Webb enough credit. I mean, I think this is, and I don't consider me media. I don't think you consider yourself media either. But what I think is so crazy is we've historically always talked about
Social media.
social media. Yeah. We've always been so big on the idea that Cooper Webb gets steamrolling when we go east. And this guy, I don't know the points. I haven't looked up, I haven't calculated. Maybe you have, but like normally by the time we go east, he's he's nowhere near the top. He's still in the hunt. And yet this year he's had some really good West Coast rounds, and we're like talking about the idea that he may mathematically not be able to make it. But then historically, when he goes east, that's when he steamrolls, and that's how he won it last year. Do you
Mhm.
see the dichotomy in that? Like historically, we're like, oh, it's just West Coast. That's not his track type. But wait till we go east. And now the guy's been on the podium. The guy's got a win. And yet we're saying, oh, I don't know if he's going to be able
Dude,
to pull this out.
arguably that guy has the hardest path to win
Yeah.
because he is never the fastest. He's
Mm-mm.
realistically never the fast. I mean, okay, I can't say that because there's been times with, was it last year? Was it either San Diego or God, San Bernardino, the the real mutter, and he went from like 8th to 3rd
In the
inside of
last
one
lap.
lap, where he was like
Mm-hmm.
15 seconds a lap faster than everybody,
Yeah.
which was just insane. So I bet low key he's probably like, yeah, bring on the mud, bring on the mud.
Well, that's the part. I mean, at this point, when you've got a guy who's historically not good on the West Coast, he's got to win. And I think he's only 14 points back now?
This was a good race for him too. That was one thing that I noticed, is that he didn't just get left. He was a
Yeah.
solid third, and he was a solid, just keeping those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much Kenny, because Kenny pulled away from everybody and then set into a rhythm that just stayed consistent, because arguably the
Yeah.
race wasn't the most fun to watch, besides just the raw speed. But Webb just kept those guys there. Just was the solid third, which normally we see him move back to like a 5th, right?
Let me ask you this: as much as we've teased about the Suzuki, in your heart of hearts, in January before
Yes.
A1, did you think?
Yes. I like
Yeah.
it. We need to keep that going. You know,
Yeah.
after the press conference, I patted Webb on the shoulder and I was like, Mac truck. And he giggled and he's like, Mac truck, you know? So I was like, yes, we need that nickname. Webb, you
Yes.
need to be the Mac truck, man.
At A1, did you think Ken Roxon gets a win this year?
I hoped.
Not
I
hope.
hoped.
Did you think statistically with Tomac, Sexton, Hunter? I mean, you go through all the different teams, right? Did you really think that that Roxon would get a win this year in Supercross?
Regrettably, no. I thought
Yeah, I
we would see
didn't.
him multiple podiums,
Mm-hmm.
multiple second places, and multiple, maybe I believed he would be leading a lot of races. I believed he would lead a lot of races.
Yeah.
Said that twice because the emphasis is consistently he's fast. The problem is the later stages.
Yeah.
And
Well, I just was thinking on raw speed, we know that he can get out of the gate and he can sprint for 1 or 2 laps. But you look at Tomac, he's got nothing to lose and everything to gain. And then, of course, he's got a couple wins already. Now, again, I'm talking before we've seen what we've seen. We saw a little bit of the World Supercross with Tomac, but we saw two ends. Like he did really well and then not so well. Then you look at Honda. We knew that we had Hunter coming in, and he's the only one that was staying on the same color bike. But I would have never thought that Roxon would actually get a win. And then here was the thing, at least not this early in the season. I thought once the attrition rate hits, but you have a healthy Sexton out there. Tomac, unfortunately, went down in the first turn. He gets a hall pass. Now, like the old saying goes, Johnny, you say it all the time, he wouldn't have gotten taken out by Savatgy if he got a better start. I mean, that's just the danger of going in the first turn in 10th place, right? Mm-hmm. It's not that Tomac did anything wrong. It wasn't Savatgy's fault. It was racing.
I think they were saying Craig, but I want to look at
Craig, excuse me. No, you're right. I think it was Craig. Well, I know it was a red bike. But
Craig was already going down when it happened. So
yeah. And Tomac had nowhere to go and his front wheel was controlled. But the fact that he even got up. Now, have you heard anything? Is Tomac's, I saw what he had talked about online, but have you heard anything since that on Saturday night of his wrist?
No, but it took him a long time to get going. And it looked to me as if he was just finishing the race and riding hurt is what it looked like to me. Yeah. But
you know what? I'm going to give G more credit here. He says Kenny's got new motivation with Larry Brooks having cancer. G more, I agree. I think that that definitely will.
I didn't know how much Larry Brooks was like a father to Kenny and a lot of those guys.
Well, I mean, you think about it. Take him all the way back to Jeremy McGrath and those guys. You know what I mean? It's just he goes way back. I mean, he's been, when we think about the generations, right? The RCs, the James, the Chads, the Dungies, the Villapotos, all of those guys, Larry's been with all of them all the time, one way or another, directly or indirectly. And what I like about him is he's got a reputation for being a tad bit abrasive. And I think it's because he just wants things right. And he holds a very high standard.
He is the only team manager I see down on the starting line.
Well, you think about like when he was managing Sam Manuel, he had James Stewart. And one of the things that I say to Michaela all the time, or when we're watching these races, is you look at RC in the booth. I want you to go back and watch RC his second year at Pro Circuit and look at his cockiness. And then look at him when he went to Honda and his cockiness. And imagine trying to manage Ricky Carmichael in his prime. Imagine trying to manage James Stewart in his prime. Imagine trying to manage Villapoto in his prime. We're currently seeing how difficult it is to help Chase Sexton in his prime.
That's what I asked Dan. I told him, I said, I don't envy you, dude. Trying to control Sexton,
No.
So
because these guys are so used to everything that's wrong is somebody else's fault but their own. And that's not a dig on RC, James, Chad, Dunge, Villapoto, or anybody. When you're in that prime and everyone's just, wiping your nose and your behind for you, I just could not imagine managing. I see it at an amateur level. I call it the B-class curse. You bring them up, they get good, and then they're too cool for school. And I'm like, I've said this publicly on the show before. The B-class is the bane of my existence. Because you've gotten them to where, 4 or 5 years, they've enjoyed the structure and they've enjoyed the success, but now they think they know everything. And because they're starting to get some bikes and they get a gear deal and maybe even they get a 2-year deal with a factory, now they've listened to it for so long, they don't want to listen to it anymore. And now they're the ones making all the money. And it is so interesting to me because you work hard to get to that point and then you'd think you'd want to catapult and really start to make money. And this is when they become cocky, arrogant. Oh man, I have nothing but mad respect for these guys. I'm not trying to sound biased here, but like Jet is probably one of the easiest dudes to work with. And I think a lot of that's because of the culture that Dazzy raises. And it's like Dazzy has a high level.
How he's.
No, that's what I'm saying. The whole Lawrence family, because Dazzy, it's all, don't make excuses for the bike, right? And we've heard Jet say, look, there's no such thing as a perfect bike. I've got it set up to be better over here, but I know I have to ride it over there. And I just, some of these guys, I could not even imagine what the team managers are going through. And you bring that up, coming back to Larry Brooks, imagine trying to manage Jeremy McGrath. Imagine trying to manage Jeff Emig when he was on top, Villapoto on top, not because they're difficult people, because they can ask for something and they get 5 sets of shocks or 5 sets of forks in the shock. And then they get a chance to shake all those down all week long. And then we hear about Chase. Unfortunately, he's circling around, literally chasing his own tail. He's back to baseline, which is very frustrating for the Cowie guys because they Chase set up, got it set. He wins. Now it seems like he's looking, and now he's back down to 8th again. As much as we joke about it as fans of the sport, imagine trying to manage that Monday through Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to the track on Saturday and there's something always wrong with the bike. Something's not always going to work correctly. And then when it doesn't, we heard Prado, bike slow, Prado, bike slow, Prado, the bike slow. We heard the knock on the KTMs, the suspension blowing up forks or shocks, the whole 9 yards. We're not saying it doesn't exist, but imagine no matter what you do, the rider keeps moving the target on you. That drives me nuts, So as fans, it's fun to watch, but it's like trying to herd cats.
I think that's why, like I said, seeing the Cowie pit where it's just they're trying to figure out what works, and sometimes it's less about trying to figure out what works and more about like what Cameron told me on the Honda tent is he said all that shit. Confidence comes from preparation. And what we did at the practice track and everything is what we bring to the races. We don't fucking fuck around with shit. We go racing. And I'm like, such a wise thing to say. Cause I remember in my years of racing, just from my own experience, right?
Yeah.
You can say whatever it is. I guess I don't even need to put like for 30th place, right? Anyway, the worst feeling ever is, all right, we need to go 9 clicks different. Okay, we need new spring rate. Oh, we need to change gearing. And you're just like, oh, we need to change tires. You're changing too much to where you don't fucking know what worked and what didn't. When in reality, what didn't work was your framing of what was wrong. Your perception rather than reality. Your perception is I need something to blame. The reality is you blame your fucking self and you just run what you brung and go get it done.
But what's interesting is you say that as an amateur and everybody in the chat room would agree with you, right? Because we don't have all those options. We don't make excuses for the bike. We're like, I just wasn't fast enough today. But that's not good enough at the pro level. It's always about the blame game. Stop and think about that. There's not one person here that doesn't get the idea that, yeah, it's difficult, but it's never going to be perfect. I mean, not to insult anyone's math skills, right? You change a shock, you change the forks. And when I say change the forks, move them up a millimeter in the triple clamps and change the bar angle. Move the bars forwards or backwards 1 degree. That's 27 different combinations, three variables, 3 to the third power is 27 different variables. So like you're saying, Johnny, if all of a sudden now you change 9 clicks here, you go 4 clicks here, you did this, you do that, now you're lost. And so that's the part that I think is interesting with these factory guys. It's Johnny, you and I talked about it like with Garmin. I think they've gotten so many different options with Garmin. Now most people are so confused on what to buy, they don't buy anything. And I think that's stupid. Eliminate too many options. Because if you give somebody 3 different options, that's 27 combinations.
Dude, scientifically, dumb analogy. When I go to fucking Baskin and Robbins,
too many options.
I always leave feeling like I should have gotten something different.
Else.
Right. And that's probably designed by corporate so that I go back and I buy something more. But as far as self-dignity, I'd much rather just have, all right, you have chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry.
Yep.
Fucking pick chocolate, get my ass out of there, be like, man, that was a goddamn good decision. But instead, there's mumbo jumbo here, there, everywhere. I have no idea what the fuck. So you're just in panic by decisions. And that's what's going on with Kawasaki.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Tomac is doing so good. It's because he's coming from a place of abundance rather than desperation.
Yep. I want to throw out the swamp picker in there. He mentioned Alex Fry. I had the privilege of working with Alex a little bit when we were at the goat farm. He was riding for the KTM program at the time. And he mentioned that Alex went on to college. Alex is a really interesting case study because he ended up going into engineering school and getting his degree. And then when he went into the workforce, he was telling me that he went to do an interview and they found out that he had raced motocross And they said they hired him because he raced motocross. And Alex asked him why. And he said, because anyone that races motocross knows how to persevere, problem solve. It just goes down to all these characteristics. And I think that's a really cool story for the young kids, not realizing the life skills that we get out of it. And
Yeah.
we can get down an entire conversation about this. But, I've always said I would much rather work with somebody who's got duct tape boots than somebody who's rolling up in a Provost and a stacker trailer. Because the kid with the duct tape, he knows how to persevere. And a perfect real world example of this is Cooper Webb. Cooper Webb only getting to ride a clapped out bike going to the track on a three rail trailer like we spoke about last week. And I think that learning how to get your feet kicked out from underneath you and get back up, and feet kicked out from underneath you, back up. It's that resiliency, right? You think about when somebody gets met with some disappointment, there's three things you have to look at. Number one, how far down do they go? Do they just get slightly bugged by it, or do they get devastated? How long does it take for them to get up to what we call baseline? And do they just get to baseline, or do they go above it? Some people actually end up below it. They don't ever come back. So if you think about that from a mental resiliency standpoint, everyone that's in the chat room is probably some of the best dudes at their jobs and dudettes at their jobs because they've learned how to deal with disappointment. Whether it's a brand new bike that you're thinking, oh, there's no way this thing, it's bulletproof, and then it breaks. And you're like, what the heck? I spent all this money. Or, you're tied 2-1 going into a championship on Saturday and you shit the bed and you have to face that Monday morning in the mirror. Just all of those emotional highs and lows.
Well, Coach, that's why I think Prado got so much hate at first, is because the first glance of just struggle and how he reacted to it, people were like, oh, crybaby, whatnot, and everything. And he earned my respect by having a conversation with him and his agent at A1, and didn't give up. That took a major pay cut, that said, no, I'm staying here for good. Yep. And I'm like, all right, dude, you've got bigger balls than what the perception is. And let's see what you do with it. And so he's been persevering for stuff, because ideally that guy's always been the winner, And it's not a matter of what happens to you. It's how you react to it. And that's why, just what you said, Cooper Webb, Kenny is a prime example. You don't want to say spoon-fed because he's been through so much, but he was the guy that was supposed to be a multi-supercross champion and motocross champion, but it got taken away from him from a mistake, right? But was that mistake a gift, or was it a minor curse? And he's turned it into a gift, because look what he has done. Look what he has built. Look what he has grounded the foundation for doing things a little bit differently with Suzuki. So,
yeah, I think once again, you've got a lot to unpack right there. I don't think Kenny gets enough credit for.
Absolutely.
I'm going to sound like I'm being critical of him, but give me a second and you'll see why I'm impressed with him. You've got to remember
critics
the nature
analyze
of
while cynics criticize. So,
well, I appreciate that, because here's the thing. We don't give Kenny enough credit for how much, if you think about the subject of opportunity cost, Kenny's out $50 million all over a chick. Think about that. The squabble that he and Webb got into was because of the online texting about talking shit about each other's wives. And if you watch Kenny comes in, he just tries to clean out Cooper, right? And it all comes back to that. It all started right there.
No,
so if you
before then, he already had the major injury with his arms.
That was the first one there, but that wasn't the one. I mean, as horrific as that was a racing incident. The idea that he got into Coop and got his arm caught up in the wheel and all that, that's over a chick, right? That's not what I want to focus on. That's not the first time it's happened. It won't be the last time it's happened. What I'm saying is, look at how many, I don't know about you, but when he was riding for RCH and he had that perfect outdoor national, except for the one moto where his forks let go, you're thinking this guy is going to be a multi-time champion. We would be talking about him in the same turn that we're looking at Jet right now, 3, 4, or 5 championships. Think about the opportunity cost of that money, right? Win the championship, salary doubles, you get all these other fringe benefits that go with it. And Kenny is still out there racing, giving 100%. I mean, it brought tears to my eyes when he got off the bike and he's got all these people around him. And the only thing he wanted to do was get to his son. He got off the bike and squatted down, and his son had kind of walked away there. That's how focused he is on being a dad. How kick-ass is that, right? So the fact that Kenny could push aside that first arm injury when he was with Honda, comes back from that, then he gets caught up in a little bit of the scuttlebutt about the nature of the accident and, trying to get a vendetta back and forth here and all that, and ends up hurting himself again, comes back from that yet again. Then he's on a team that's not getting a lot of support. He still shakes the team down, and now he's giving them a win. When was the last time, and somebody that's in the chat room, you guys are better than we are in regards to this. When was the last time a Suzuki won the Supercross, a race? I would have to go back to Ricky, would it not? I can't think of the last time a Suzuki won.
For sure.
Because I don't think anybody raced after, because
2016, Ken Roczen was on the Suzuki, right? And he won the motocross championship. Did he win any races in Supercross?
Not that I'm aware of. I think Ricky was the last one on Suzuki. Isn't it funny? Ricky had the last for the longest time on Honda, and I think he had one of the last on Suzuki. Oh, JS7. Yeah. Okay. I forgot about James for JGR. Dunge. Okay. Thanks, guys. So you think about the dry spell, you saw how excited Kawasaki was. It's been 3 or 4 years since they didn't have a win for Cowie. And I think that would go back to Tomac's days. And then you look at Suzuki, now they're back on top of the podium. And this is a guy that has lost a lot. What's your thought, Johnny?
Oh, I just was sidebar. When I was talking to Jason Anderson, I was he was like, dude, I'm sick. And I was like, dude, when do you give yourself time to recover? Like when you go to he's like, I ride all the fucking time. And I'm like, do you ride in zone 2 or can you tone it in? And he's like, dude, I just fucking go wide open all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it got me thinking. I was like, he needs somebody like Coach Rob, where it's just like, dude, we need you to be good at those last couple laps. You need to fucking recover.
But they live in
and then when I asked, sorry, Coach, then when I asked the same question to his team manager, Dustin Pipes, he was telling me that, Jason rides way too much. And I'm going, there's a problem right there, guys. You need to tone him in.
But they don't know what they don't know. That's the frustrating part. I mean, I have swam upstream for 41 years in this sport. Because if I ask you, you're working with a riding coach or you're at a training facility, and I ask you what they do today, and you give me X, Y, Z, this is what you did on the motorcycle. And then I just simply ask why. What do you mean why? Because that's what the riding coach wanted to do today. Well, where does it fit in over the 7-day window? Where does that fit in a 6-week training block? Where does that training block fit in for the whole year? If you hired me as a professional runner, and let's say your focus is the marathon, we don't run a marathon every day. Let's take it in the motor world. If you are a professional GNCC racer, we don't do 3 hours every day on the motorcycle at race pace. But yet in the motocross world, now, I'm not naive. I completely respect and understand that the motorcycles are designed, the suspension works best when it's under race speed. I understand that. Mm-hmm. Then cut the duration down, right?
Well, if you're going to breathe it made me think, I know I'm interrupting, made me think that
you're good.
It might be a confidence thing where it's like, I have to constantly be getting better. And the only way for me to get better is by fucking riding as fast as I possibly can. And you got me thinking when I was on my long run, because I was trying to do like a 650 pace. And after about mile 5, I just blew up because my heart rate was at 180. And I was like, coach would be telling me, Johnny, you need to stay around the 150, nice zone 2, nice relaxing. And I couldn't do it. So it got me thinking about Anderson. And so sorry.
Yeah. Well, it's just a lack of knowledge, because our industry has kind of grown up under the ideology that the only way to go fast is to go fast. It's exact opposite. If I'm going to drag race you for a quarter of a mile and I give you the option of a 65 or a 450, every single person would grab the 450. And I go, why? You go, what's faster? Why is it faster? It's got a bigger piston. Okay. Well, your piston is your strength base and your aerobic engine is your carburetor. Assume the 450 has a carburetor. So if I mess up that combination, if I have a 450 piston and I have a 65 carburetor, the piston doesn't get enough air fuel to ever see its potential of power. Now I go the other side. If I have an 85 piston and I take a 450 carburetor, if they had them, I can't stuff more air fuel and make the 65 fast as a 450 because there's not enough power. So
You see those
this is
comments,
where,
Coach?
yeah, I like what Barnaby said, the fear of complacency, because what is complacency? Complacency is not doing the work. Well, none of these guys have a problem doing the work. It's exact opposite. They're doing too much work. Well, the problem is our industry doesn't break down where is that threshold. That's what we specialize as a company, because I can give 5 people the same workout and get 5 different results, because some can absorb it. Some have different backgrounds. Some are fitter, some are stronger, some are faster. And we get into muscle fiber types and aerobic capacity and stuff. But you're exactly right. A lot of these top pros grew up under the ideology of old riding coaches. And if you ask them why they did it, that's because their riding coach did it. And if you ask them, it's because their riding coach did it. So then when you bring, and this is what's interesting, when you bring any kind of science in, somebody who is a riding coach, a team manager, a facility manager, and you talk about bringing in the science, they say that you're complicating it. Just ride your fucking motorcycle. I've been told that 100 times. Just fucking ride your motorcycle. Well, the problem is I go back to a marathoner doesn't run a marathon every day. Monday's an easy tempo. Tuesday is speed work. Wednesday is a tempo. Thursday's hill work. Saturday's a long run. And you change it up. Heart rate ladders, negative split, fast tempos. But when you bring that science into the two-wheeled world, they go, that's too complicated. We're out. And I'm like, really? You guys are talking about the splitting of whether or not, like when we get into engines and how you configure them and how you dyno them, you're talking a millimeter change here and a millimeter change there. I'm just talking about training with correct heart rate zones and then making sure that the body can absorb it. And I've got all the resources to help you see that. But then when I bring that up, then they don't like the numbers that they see. So therefore they just try to dismiss all the science. So what's C28 saying?
I think we are wrong about the whole who's won last on a Suzuki, because yeah, Kenny did win last year on the Suzuki in Supercross, and I think he almost won
Okay.
a second one. Remember when he went through the whoops and the shock blew up and it was like a big thing? I don't know if that was last year or the year before.
Oh yeah, through the whoops when it completely ejected
I think
him.
he has won something every year for a while. So yeah. But still,
well,
what's funny from the other times is nobody really expected him to win this time. And in the pits, at Glendale, there's a video I have about the fans, and it's going to get better every time I go, because I'm constantly trying to do things a little bit different every time, and I will get better at it. But I do like that dynamic of talking with the fans. Everyone wanted Sexton to win. The majority I got, like, number one, everyone said Deegan was going to win. I'm like, well, that's a shoe-in. But for the 450 class, over 60% of them said Sexton. And I'm like, very interesting that the fans think that Sexton is going to win so much, when myself feels like, well, he's got to beat himself first before he beats everyone else. And then the next number was Tomac, and it was like a tie between Tomac and Hunter of who was going to win. And then I would say like 5-10% of the people I talked to said that Kenny was going to win, which was interesting.
Now, is it based on fan favorite or just based on who you think is got the skill set this year in 2026?
I bet it was fan favorite. You know, the people that I was just talking to, half the people were drunk, other half people weren't. And yeah.
But hey, a drunk person speaks a straight person's mind. So if you want to get the truth, get somebody drunk and let them talk, and then you'll get the real truth. Yeah. I don't know. To me, not that you asked the question, but just along that thread of thought, to me, the biggest surprise of the year is Tomac, because he's running just the idea that it's one thing to be going from a Cowie to another Japanese brand, but to go to an Austrian brand like that, I mean, we've seen people that they just don't get along with it. And I don't know, the idea, and again, this is another level of complexity. Can you fathom the idea that they've got a cable clutch on that KTM? Think about the R&D for that. It's not like we put a different tire size on.
Dude,
I mean, we have a clutch. Cable
Coach,
clutch.
The amount of just, how I was saying that like Deegan was emulating Tomac, and then all the Deegan fans in the comments here were like, no way. But everyone is trying to emulate Tomac, because you know what? When everyone was running the scoop tire, who was running the scoop tire? Tomac.
Tomac.
As soon as Tomac stops running the scoop tire, nobody is running the scoop tire. Everyone is looking to see what he's doing first. And
Well,
when
it's
I've
hard to
asked
argue with
people,
success. Yeah.
I've asked a couple riders of it, and they're like, well, we're going to wait to see if Tomac does it. And it's pretty interesting how much respect that guy has. And if it goes back to Hunter and the respect thing, Hunter would have won, I think, round 2, San Diego, if he didn't respect Tomac as much. If he was Deegan,
Absolutely.
he would have come in there, made contact, won the race. But that's just not how Hunter rides, which is another one of the reasons why I respect him, is because it's not all about money for him.
Well, what's crazy to me is we had Tomac win 2 rounds, and we're not even really talking much about him today. That's the part that's staggering. It just shows you how quickly the tides change in this sport. Yeah. And, you know, you've got to give respect where respect is due. I mean, Tomac, and it's crazy. If you were to ask anybody who's in this chat room area, think about when Tomac was riding for R&D Suzuki, big blue seat, bright yellow bikes, right? We remember him being a very strong amateur. Then we remember him going to Geico. He was a very, very strong 250 rider. Remember when he blew both of his shoulders out in that right-hand turn outdoors? I mean, just think that he's come back from just
it was
that.
at Lakewood. That downhill is so sketch.
I mean, he never even got his hands out. I mean, just that's how fast he hit the ground. Then you look at him going to Cowie. We all have good memories of him at Cowie. Then we have memories of him, you know, every bike that he's gone to, over to Yamaha, now back to over to KTM, excuse me. You look at that, and like, if there's one thing with Tomac, it's just that consistently he's always there. I mean, when he was at Cowie, he had that's when they gave the Oakley Award for the fastest qualifier. That year, he had the most Oakley fastest qualifiers. He led the most laps, and he had the most wins, except unfortunately that was a year that he'd either win or get 15th, because like the one year his pants unbuckled, right? He went down. It's just stupid stuff like that. But the thing with Tomac is he's always in it. Every year he's been in the class, of any class, he's always in it. And so I think when you look at the people, it's like the respect that people have for Cooper Webb and his mental toughness. Remember Cooper Webb saying that he was on the gate thinking he could mind mess with Tomac? And he looked over at him and he's like, yeah, you ready to go? Remember, he said Tomac just, and then just looked back, didn't say a word. And that's when Webb was like, I can't mess with this guy. He's unbreakable.
Houston last weekend, when I asked Tomac, I was like, dude, for the Triple Crowns, are you now managing the points lead, or are you just fucking WFO every time you get on there? And he took my mic and he said, Johnny, I'm fucking all out every time I swing a leg over that bike.
Yep.
And I just got chills. And I was just going, this SOB is the scariest guy on this line, just because the fitness, his perseverance, and how fast he is, he's always going to be there. And
you bring up something. Look at Tomac's injuries. We just talked about the shoulder, and he blew his Achilles on that G out.
And then last year, what did he do to his ankle or his tib when he jammed?
Spiral fractured that a little bit.
Yeah.
But think about it. Those are like, no disrespect to Faulkner, but they're not Faulkner type of accidents. You know what I mean? He didn't nose pick it into the face of the corner. He didn't, and the reason why I bring that up is look at how long his career has been and look at how minimal his injuries are. So when you talk about, because you brought up the athleticism, right? And then what I love about Tomac is, what is he renowned for? When the season's over, where's he? He and his dad grab a bow and they go up in the mountains and they go bow hunting for 2 weeks, right? They don't. Now this year, because I think he was smart to try to shake down a new frame, he went and did WSX. But historically, Tomac was like, unless he was on the Des Nations team, when the season was over, he was done. He was going and enjoying the off season. I think that says a lot to his longevity, is he knows how he's got a certain window of time that he has to work, but then when he's got that time off, he recharges his batteries and then he turns right back around. And it's one of those situations where I think he's really struck the balance of long season, how to manage it, of course, with the advice of his mom and dad being, world-class mountain bikers, that helps as well. But yeah, you look at Tomac, and isn't it interesting that as we go through these different riders, the characteristics that come to mind, if you say Webb, people say, oh, mentally tough. You look at Hunter, people say super, super classy, good role model, good features, doesn't talk a lot of shit. You look at, I'm just bouncing around here, Chase Sexton, smooth as glass. The only person that gets in his way is himself. You go through all these different riders, and this is what I like to try to encourage my young athletes. People form an opinion based on your behavior. So you might be extremely disappointed, but if you learn how to manage that and only essentially allow it to come out when you're back in your rig, instead of just throwing a hissy fit in the impound area because some squirrel took you out, like I always say to my athletes, yeah, the guy took you out. That sucks, but doesn't change the results by you throwing a hissy fit. We just have to figure out how do we stay away from the squirrel so he doesn't get a chance to take you out again. And so these are the things that I love when you look at these athletes. And again, go back to the 450 class that we spoke about as recent as last week. Every one of those factory riders have a 250 championship. I think the only one that we said doesn't have a 250 championship is Marchbanks. But if you go through every single color of bike, every one of those 450 riders has a championship. Look at Suzuki with Colt Nichols. You got Ferrandis over at Ducati. I mean, all of those guys have won championships. It's pretty staggering when you think about it. And just a little side note, Johnny, I'm impressed that we're going into round number 6 and the attrition rate has not been as devastating as it was last year. Remember how quickly they fell early?
Yeah, I was talking with the guys that run Feld when I was up in the press box, and we were talking about, I don't know, I was talking about how to sell the sport more and, the injuries, and, we were every race getting some sort of a red flag. But then I was also bringing up, well, but if you look at the 450 guys, we still have the majority of all the factory guys, like minus Barsha, pretty much everyone is there. And they're like, oh, that is a good point. That is interesting because usually by now there's 2 or 3 of them that are gone.
And they're usually 1 or 2. I mean, it sucks that Jet's out. I think it'd be very interesting to see how the dynamic would be. And then, Malcolm, he's been riding injured. I think he was sick again this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. You were there. Did you hear why Malcolm pulled off?
I didn't. And I saw some of those comments, and I haven't really asked anyone why he did pull off. And so I'll start texting some people and asking, but I don't know, maybe I'll wait for him just to say something because I got a lot of videos and stuff that I need to edit. So
lots of good stuff. Both classes. I mean, there's so much that we could talk about if we were to go and just look at great races like Max Volan having a good race. It didn't stay up there, but I'm just Moseman. I mean, McAdoo. I mean, think about it. McAdoo's ahead of Levi Kitchen in the points. Put that in perspective.
Crazy after what happened at A1 too. That's what I'm saying is like Deegan has decimated the confidence. And not only his own team, but the other riders. All
right, so let's stir the stink pot. Here we go, Johnny. I know we're 2 hours in, but we're going to stir the stink pot. You ready? Does Deegan race Daytona on a 450?
Fuck. I mean, he should.
He should, 100%.
He should.
He needs to do exactly what Jeremy Martin did. Go out there, lead the race. Remember, Jeremy led to 3 laps left on a 450. And had he not broken his back that summer, he would have gotten the 450 ride that Sexton got at Honda. That's how fast everything changes. So do you think Deegan races Daytona? I do. Where do you put him?
I think he should, but I don't think he's going to.
Why?
I don't think Brian's going to let him. I think Brian
What's he got to lose?
Something risk versus reward, 10%. I don't even know, 5% chance that
he could ride with a broken wrist and win the 250 championship at this point. I don't say that sarcastically. Like it's pretty clear that, I think somebody in here had said that if he gets like third in all of that, they
said he said no already.
Yeah. Okay.
But at the same time, like they always do something and then at the last second do something else. But I think Brian thinks that he's got more to lose than to gain from it because results are going to speak for themselves and he's going to come out in outdoors.
Well,
And
that's where I was going to go. It's the closest track to outdoors, and I think Brian would like to see where does he stand before we go outdoors. Remember, we always say the
I think
first
they
race is
already
like,
did with World Supercross a little bit because those tracks aren't as technical as far as Supercrosses. But I'm gonna lean on the unfortunate circumstances that he says no, that he won't be there.
yeah, I'm going to go on a limb and say he does. I think it's just a great opportunity for them to test as close to going outdoors in real time. Because it's one thing when you've got your training buddies and you've got the track that you ride all the time, but then to go to something that, you have to learn really quickly. And I just think it would be, it just reminds me a lot of when Jeremy Martin went and raced it and really opened everybody's eyes, like, holy smoke, this guy is legit. And I know it's a little bit different. Maybe, you know what? No, I'm not going to backpedal it. I was going to say Jeremy Martin did not have the 450 contract. So I think that was another reason why he wanted to do it, was he wanted to show that he could run the pace of the 450 guys. And of course he almost won the whole race, all but a couple laps. So yeah, I guess with Deegan already having the 450, he has no reason to do it. But I just think in regards to giving the bike a legitimate shakedown, and can you imagine if he goes to Daytona and were to win the damn thing on a 450, right? It's almost like not a fill-in ride, but he's racing the West Coast, shows up on the 450, and then of all races wins Daytona. Now you're talking about,
It would be cool. It would be cool, but I'm not betting on it, and I've been a big better this last couple of years. But,
oh, let's not rip that scab off, Johnny.
Yeah,
that's a rough one.
I know.
That's a rough one.
Yeah,
I'm going to go on a limb and say he does. You'll go on a limb and say he doesn't. We're dating this February the 9th. We'll see.
Yeah,
but like they said right there, the hype would be insane, as C28 says. I do agree. It would be unbelievable. Yeah. Tree Miner said the internet would lose it.
It absolutely would.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens, but
we're going to wrap it up.
All right, brother.
It was a great conversation.
Get some sleep, man. You can't keep this pace up. You're going to get sick. And then
I got 9 hours today, which was good. I went to bed. I was asleep by 9 and I woke up at 6:30. So this was a good recovery day.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have you back, and thank you for all the content. I noticed the people in the chat room were saying the same thing. We appreciate all that you're putting in, brother. Keep it going, and appreciate you making time for this show.
Thank you. Well,